Chapter 186, Should I Play Hard to Get the Machine announced the result using the sound system. The moment Wang Teng's Jiugong stakes result came out, it attracted many students' attention. At first, it was nothing. But, he had broken the record in a single try. This was extremely surprising. Suddenly, a lady walked over and looked at Wang Teng's test result. She sized him up with interest after confirming that the machine wasn't malfunctioning. Little junior Wang Ting, you're really astonishing. Even 3-star soldier-level martial warriors who are not well versed with speed will not be able to achieve this result, she continued. I'm Ning Ziyu, a third-year student and a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. Are you interested in having a duel? It's senior sister Ning Ziyu. I heard that senior Ning Ziyu's footwork is quite good. She actually asked Wang Ting for a battle. This Wang Ting is quite powerful. He just defeated our second year, and now, he has attracted the attention of our third-year senior sister. The second-year students around them couldn't help but start discussing. Some third-year seniors were slightly shocked for a second. Then, they looked interested. They were about to leave, but they stopped and decided to stay back to watch the battle. 3-star soldier level. Wang Teng thought to himself. This was a good chance for him to test his speed. He nodded and agreed. Good, little junior Wang Teng is very decisive. Ning Ziyu tied her hair in a ponytail and smiled. There's no need to look for other venues. Let's use this Jiugong stake. Okay, Wang Teng nodded and replied. Based on our speed, the advanced level is nothing. Shall we try the nightmare level directly? Ning Ziyu asked again when she went over to choose the level. All right. I wanted to give it a try too. Wang Teng smiled. The students around them looked at each other. These two were really fierce. They chose the nightmare level directly. The wooden posts would change at a faster speed, and there would be many changes to their formation at the nightmare level of the Jiugong stake. The speed at which the plastic bullets shot out was frightening too. Even a 3-star martial warrior would feel pain when he got hit by the bullets. The third-year seniors got even more interested. Is Ning Ziyu planning to bully our junior? Someone laughed. Wang Ting has never tried the nightmare level before. He doesn't know that its difficulty is much greater than the advanced level. He's extremely gifted, but it's time to display the power of the third-year seniors. We can't be looked down on. As they were happily discussing, Wang Teng and Ning Ziyu stood at the starting point of the Jiugong stakes. They looked at each other and moved in unison without needing other people to shout start for them. They dashed into the Jiugong stakes almost at the same time. Wang Teng continued to use his basic footwork as his foundation. However, he increased his speed. Ning Ziyu had the thought of pushing Wang Teng down, so she used around 70% of her ability. She even executed her proudest footwork battle technique. Once a professional acted, you knew that they had the ability. A moment ago, everyone wanted to see Ning Ziyu demoralizing Wang Ting. But now, Wang Ting was almost advancing at an equal pace with Ning Ziyu. His speed was incredible. This is basic footwork. The third-year students exchanged glances with one another. They were honestly a little astounded. It wasn't just because of how fast Wang Ting's speed was. It was also because he didn't execute any battle technique. He was able to remain equal to Ning Ziyu using just his basic footwork. Ning Ziyu's expression changed slightly when she noticed Wang Ting chasing her relentlessly. She got serious, and her speed skyrocketed. When Wang Ting saw this, he increased his speed too. He moved his feet irregularly as he dodged the bullets and shuttled at high speed between the wooden posts. Slash. Slash. More than 10 minutes later, the two of them shot out of the Jiugong stake almost simultaneously. Before this, Ning Ziyu had already changed the mode of the Jiugong stake to double player mode. After they cleared the level, the machine immediately displayed their results. Ning Ziyu, 83 Wang Ting, 86. The machine announced the results. There was a huge commotion. Wang Teng's result was 3 points higher than Ning Ziyu's. Senior sister Ning Ziyu actually lost. How can Wang Teng's speed be so fast? Even a third-year senior sister can't defeat him? What is this? The jaws of the second-year students dropped. They were flabbergasted. No wonder Zhuo Tai lost to him. He lost for a good reason. This brat is really hard to understand. The third-year seniors shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Sigh. Ning Ziyu couldn't help but heave a long sigh. She gave a forced smile and said, "Little junior Wang Ting, I really embarrassed myself today. I was just lucky." Wang Ting picked up the speed attribute bubbles Ning Ziyu had dropped as he waved his hands. "Don't be humble. Your ability is enough to gain everyone's recognition," Ning Ziyu said earnestly. There seemed to be another meaning behind her sentence. She glanced at the second-year students around them. "I noticed that you were using basic footwork just now, right?" Ning Ziyu asked. "Yes," Wang Teng replied. "I didn't think that I'd lose to basic footwork. You have my respect for practicing your basic footwork to this level. Come, senior sister will treat you today. We can discuss what we have learned from practicing footwork along the way." Ning Ziyu pulled Wang Ting down the stairs without giving him time to react. "Wang Ting." The group of young men who were left behind stared at them with their mouths wide open. F***K, senior sister Ning invited him for a meal. Look at this treatment. Sob, why can't I be that person? You bastard, let go of my senior sister Ning. Ah, Wang Ting is just fairer and a little more handsome. Ning Ziyu, you can't succumb. Ning Ziyu's popularity in school was very high. She was strong and pretty, and her figure was amazing. Many people wanted to pursue her, but no one had succeeded so far. Yet, today, she actually invited Wang Ting for a meal voluntarily. This wasn't scientific. It didn't make sense. At this moment, Wang Ting was also in a daze. Didn't she say that she just wanted a duel? Why did you suddenly have other thoughts towards me? You're making things difficult for me. Should I resist a little now? Although Ning Ziyu is pretty and her figure, yes, it's not bad. But a person should have his principles, especially a man. I can't just do whatever she wants and have a meal with her just because she asked. No matter what, I should play hard to get. I heard that the effects are outstanding. Ladies always fall for this trick. Senior sister, Wang Ting wanted to say something to show that he had his principles and morals. What? Are you not willing to give me face? Ning Ziyu frowned. She thought that he was unwilling to eat with her. Oh, no. I feel that I should be the one treating today. My mother said that it's not good to let a lady treat. Wang Ting spouted nonsense with a serious expression. Was it important whether Li Xiaomei had said this before? Mom, this is a critical moment. It's time for you to appear. Your mother is extremely right. This is how you can get a girlfriend. Ning Ziyu smiled secretly as she said. Cough, senior sister, I think you misunderstood me. I'm a good student who views studies and cultivation as the most important things. I won't find a girlfriend, Wang Ting said awkwardly. All right. At first, I wanted to give you a chance. However, from the looks of it now, you have great aspirations, so you might not want me, Ning Ziyu said. Wang Ting. Chapter 187, Naughty Ting. Let's go. Wang Ting and Ning Ziyu went to the cafeteria on the second floor. Ning Ziyu wasn't polite to him at all. She took the menu and started ordering with ease. Please give me a ginseng blackbone chicken first. Wang Ting's heart turned cold when he heard the first dish. Ginseng blackbone chicken. He had glanced at this dish the last time, and it required 10 school credits. It was enough to order a few more dishes. This wastrel. And 1,000-layer sea cucumber, Ning Ziyu continued. Wang Ting glared at her. This was another expensive dish. After the purification of the force, the living creatures in the sea had also mutated. It was hard to catch them without professional equipment. The cost increased significantly, so naturally, the price followed suit. Ning Ziyu didn't plan to stop here. She ordered another 2 dishes. Senior sister, isn't this too much? Wang Ting's heart was bleeding as he asked cautiously. Not really, not really. My appetite is really good. Ning Ziyu looked at Wang Ting curiously as she said, Are you unwilling to pay? Ha ha ha, how is that possible? Besides being generous, I have no other merits, Wang Ting said as he laughed awkwardly. After some time, the dishes were served. Force chef masters were indeed amazing. The dishes were pretty, fragrant, and delicious. You would start salivating when you looked and smelled the dishes. Your appetite would increase tremendously. It was pricey for a reason. Maybe I should learn some force cooking skills in the future. I could rake in a lot of money, Wang Teng thought to himself. After that, the two of them started eating and discussing. Wang Ting's basic footwork was at the highest presence enlightenment stage. His steps of Gale had reached the perfected stage too. Thus, his understanding of footwork was as strong as Ning Ziyu's. Both of them benefited greatly through this mutual exchange. After they finished eating, Wang Teng saw Ning Ziyu touching her stomach in satisfaction without caring about her image. Ning Ziyu's appetite is indeed not small, Wang Teng thought to himself. He couldn't afford to raise her. The edge of his mouth twitched slightly as he prepared to get up and scan his student card to pay with his school credits. However, Ning Ziyu had already passed her student card to the waiter in the cafeteria before him. She said, "It's my treat this time. I'll give you a chance to ask me out next time." Wang Teng was stunned for a moment. Then, he said shyly, "This ice and tea very nice. I'm not such a casual person." Ning Ziyu's pretty face turned black. She rolled her eyes at Wang Teng. "You're a little naughty." Wang Teng, oh naughty Teng, let's go." Ning Ziyu got up and went down the stairs. Wang Teng. After they left the cafeteria, Wang Teng parted with Ning Ziyu. He wanted to go back to his dormitory, but suddenly, he felt chills on his back. He turned around and saw 4 bitter gazes staring at him. Dates before mates. Hu Pingliang and his friends said simultaneously. "Go away." Wang Teng replied angrily. "Brother Teng, you've changed. In the past, you treated only us to the 2nd floor for a meal. Now, you're treating ladies." Hu Pingliang looked as though he had been forsaken by his parents. F***K, you're so disgusting. Wang Teng felt goosebumps all over his body. He raised his leg and kicked him. "Ha ha ha," Hu Pingliang chuckled and dodged. But, he soon realized that Song Shuhang and his friends were looking at him with a weird and vigilant gaze. "What's with that look?" Hu Pingliang's face darkened. "Hu Zi, I didn't expect your sexual preference to be so advanced." "Yes, advance," Song Shuhang said slowly. "Don't worry, we won't ostracize you," Lu Shu said calmly. "I'll still treat you as my brother." Bailey Qingfeng patted his shoulder and then quickly stepped to the side. Hu Pingliang was stunned. He felt as if he had dug a hole for himself to jump. He was left frustrated. He said anxiously, "I'm not. I didn't. Don't frame me." Wang Teng burst out laughing when he saw his agitated look. Song Shuhang and the others also bent down and laughed. "You're so evil." Hu Pingliang knew that they were laughing at him, but he couldn't admit this. If not, they might stick this title to him forever in the future. The 2 days of holiday passed quickly. On Monday, the students started their official lessons. There were more lessons in the martial arts academy compared to the normal academy. Not only did they have to take martial arts courses, but they also had to take the normal courses. The martial arts courses were split into theory and actual combat courses. It wasn't hard to understand. Martial arts theories were taught in theory classes, while actual combat classes were where the instructors guided the students' cultivation of their scriptures and battle techniques. Why were martial warriors from school able to have higher achievements than self-taught martial warriors? That was because the martial warriors from schools had been through systematic learning, which helped them lay a strong foundation. Also, there were instructors guiding them in their theory and combat skills. Once there was a mistake, it would be corrected immediately. It prevented them from taking too many wrong turns and helped them save a lot of time unknowingly. Wang Ting was getting used to his new student life. He was finding his routine. Every morning, he would go for lessons. When he was free, he would go to the actual combat training building to test his attributes. He also competed with Ning Ziyu a few more times. He held back a little, so both of them won and lost a few times. He gave Ning Ziyu some face. In a blink of an eye, 1 week passed. On Friday, after the last lesson ended, Wang Teng, Hu Pingliang, and their friends were heading to the cafeteria. I heard that the Dan faculty have started teaching their students how to rub medicine pills, Song Shuhang said. Rub medicine pills? Wang Teng was puzzled. Haha, this is the phrase the Dan faculty students gave. It's just a simple concoction of herbs with little skill required. Thus, it came to be known as rubbing medicine pills. Song Shuhang smiled and replied. You are really well informed. Wang Teng glanced at him in surprise. I always look at the school's forum and messaging groups. Naturally, I know more information, Song Shuhang said proudly. This is his only interest and hobby, Lu Shu said with disdain. Can you get the lesson schedule of all the faculties? Wang Ting had a sudden thought and asked. I can. But, why do you need it? Song Shuhang asked in surprise. I'm interested in alchemy. I want to take a look, Wang Ting answered. Oh, right. You wanted to choose all the faculties at the start of school, but you got scolded by the president. Lu Shu remembered this scene. Brother Teng, don't take more than you can chew. You are really talented. Won't it be a waste of your time and talent if you learn those things? Hu Pingliang hesitated, but he still spoke in the end. That's right. A master of one is better than a jack of all. Song Shuhang and his friends tried to persuade Wang Ting. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Wang Ting knew that they had good intentions, but he couldn't tell them that he was a bug, right? Hu Pingliang and his friends didn't continue. They only hoped that Wang Ting would learn his lesson after he tried and knew how difficult it was. They felt that Wang Ting didn't have the energy to learn so many things. I'll ask the students from the other faculties for their lesson schedules, Song Shuhang said. Thank you, Shuhang. Song Shuhang was really efficient. The next day, he passed the lesson schedules of the other faculties to Wang Teng. Wang Teng looked at the lesson schedules of the other 4 faculties in his hand and sniggered. He could almost see all kinds of attribute bubbles waving at him. He was already restless. However, some of the lessons overlap with each other. I can only hurry over after my lesson ends and see if I can snatch the last batch of bubbles. Wang Teng thought to himself. Fortunately, the faculty buildings were all quite close to each other. With his speed of a martial warrior, 1 minute was enough. I will try it next week. Chapter 188, Receiving School Missions. The Logistics Department. In the school's logistics building. On Saturday, Wang Ting had some free time, so he came to the logistics building. The first floor of the logistics building was responsible for the school's internal miscellaneous affairs. You could also check your school credits and consult your questions here. The second floor was the transaction area. The school had a credit exchanging system. You could use your school credits to exchange for Dan pills, weapons, and many other resources. The third floor was the mission receiving area. Today, Wang Teng's destination was the mission receiving area. He had long heard that there was a mission system in the martial arts academy. Usually, you could only leave school after you had received a mission. It was very troublesome for Wang Ting if he couldn't get out of school. Thus, immediately after he finished his first week of classes, he decided to take a look at the mission receiving area. The students could earn school credits from doing missions. His ability was enough for him to complete 3-star missions. Wang Ting went straight to the third floor. When he walked out of the lift, he saw a counter directly opposite the main door. There was school staff standing at the counter. Behind the counter, there were rows and rows of machines that looked like ATMs. The machines were as tall as a person, and they were all automated. At this moment, many students were operating the automated machines. The staff at the counter glanced at Wang Ting and ignored him after that. However, some students recognized him. They were slightly stunned. Then, they understood. Other freshmen might be unable to receive missions, but Wang Ting had more than enough ability to take missions. Wang Ting disregarded everyone's gazes. He was already used to the different kinds of looks people gave him. They couldn't kill him anyway. He walked to an empty automated machine. These automated machines were really easy to use. The operations were direct and obvious. He followed the steps written on the machine and took out his student card, pushing it into the card slot. Beep, student card. A few windows appeared on the screen. Military mission, police mission, City Protection Bureau Mission, the Xingwu Continent Mission, School Mission. Wang Teng thought for a moment and clicked a window randomly. City Protection Bureau Mission, mission description. Help the staff of the City Protection Bureau to investigate the strange occurrences at Yangshui village. There's a suspected appearance of a snake-like high-level mutated beast. It's very aggressive and is poisonous. Requirement: 1-star soldier level reward, 5 school credits. The City Protection Bureau missions were mostly about mutated beasts and star beasts, monitoring the country, and stopping any appearances that would threaten humans. Police mission, mission description. Capturing and killing a 1-star wood element soldier-level martial warrior who has escaped to Donghai. The criminal specializes in long blade skills, and he has 5 lives on his hands. He's extremely cruel. Requirement: at least 1-star soldier-level peak. Reward: 15 school credits. Mission description. Help the City Protection Bureau to protect the oldest daughter of the CEO of the Longhai Corporation from the cutthroat competition in the business world. Currently, we know that 3 martial warriors from overseas have sneaked into Donghai. Requirement: 2-star soldier level. Reward: 20 school credits. School mission, mission description. Head to Mount Chunhua to pick 10 illusion grass. This spiritual plant has illusion effects, and there will be high-level mutated beasts guarding them most of the time. Requirement: 1-star soldier level. Reward: 10 school credits. Wang Teng looked at every window. There were all kinds of missions for the students to pick. These missions came from many different official organizations. There were many martial warriors in each organization. However, there might be a shortage of manpower, or the organization couldn't do the mission due to special reasons. Hence, they entrusted the students from the different schools with these missions. Of course, one of the reasons was to groom the martial warriors in the schools. After all, if the martial warriors in schools didn't have any actual combat experience, they wouldn't be able to get used to the environment after graduating. They wouldn't be able to shoulder heavy responsibilities. In his past life, many people had used the ivory tower as an analogy for schools. A student who just came out of school was like a piece of white paper. They didn't know anything. Their experience was so low that it made people speechless. After entering the different organizations, they still had to undergo training at work. Martial warriors were different from normal students. No one would give them on-job training. When normal students made mistakes, they could change. However, once martial warriors made mistakes, they might lose their lives. The consequences were huge. Also, the missions had different difficulty levels. However, the lowest requirement was to be at the 1-star soldier level. Wang Teng stuck out his tongue. Indeed, after entering university, the circle was different. Only a martial warrior was able to receive the missions. Before he entered university, it was hard for him to even meet a martial warrior. It had to be said that the ordinary people's world was indeed very far from the world of martial warriors. What they understood was just the surface. The martial warriors' world that normal people had in mind wasn't the real martial warriors' world at all. From these missions, it wasn't hard to see that the normal people were able to live a peaceful life because there was a huge number of martial warriors taking care of all sorts of dangers in many unknown places. The machine even introduced some information they needed to take note of. For instance, they could receive the missions individually or as a team. However, once they accepted the missions, they couldn't reveal any relevant information to other non-related people. For instance, if they felt that they couldn't finish the mission and gave up halfway, or failed the mission for all kinds of reasons, school credits would be taken away from them based on the punishment system. Wang Teng took half an hour to study the missions. He then made his decision. He wanted to take a short-term mission for this weekend. That way, he could leave school and take this chance to get used to the flow of the missions. Wang Teng chose the school mission, the one that required him to head to Mount Chunhua to pick the illusion grass. Mount Chunhua was a 2-hour journey from Donghai. One day was enough for him to travel back and forth. As for the illusion effect of the illusion grass and the mutated beasts guarding them, Wang Teng didn't care. With his ability, he was confident of any trouble heading his way. Wang Teng accepted the mission and walked out of the logistics building. Then, he headed to the martial arts club. 2 days ago, the martial arts club had informed him to report to them. Today was the agreed date. He arrived at the martial arts club building and went straight to the 5th floor. He walked in front of a meeting room and pushed the door open. The room was already filled with people. When they heard the sound of the door opening, everyone turned their heads. Wang Ting, you are the last to arrive. Zhuang He, who was sitting in the host seat, smiled and said calmly, I'm sorry. This is my first time coming to the martial arts club, so I got lost. Wang Ting started talking nonsense. Everyone was speechless. Who are you trying to fool? One all right, Wang Ting, take a seat. Since everyone is here, let me say a few simple words, Zhuang He said. Wang Ting nodded and sat down. Zhuang He opened his mouth. The president and vice presidents of the club are away on a mission. They won't be back so soon. I'm the only one left, so I will be organizing the meeting of the new and old club members today. Let's get to know each other. After everyone greeted each other, Zhuang He introduced the job of the martial arts club and its benefits. It was the same as what Chen Su and Yang Lin had told Wang Ting. That is all for today. Yang Lin, you can bring the juniors for a tour of our martial arts club building. Then, Zhuang He looked at Wang Ting. Junior Wang Ting, stay behind. Let's talk for a while. The other new members couldn't help but look at Wang Ting. Then, they followed Yang Lin for a tour. Wang Ting remained in his seat. There were senior brothers and sisters all around him, looking at him with smiles on their faces. When more than 10 pairs of eyes stared at him, his head turned numb. Seniors, I might have joined the martial arts club, but I won't sell my body. 1. Chapter 189. Extremely sly. When they heard Wang Ting's words, everyone was speechless. His values seemed a little crooked. We are the martial arts club, not human traffickers. Why will we need you to sell your body? Even Zhuang He was triggered by Wang Ting and glared at him furiously. He was starting to wonder whether it was the right thing to invite this fellow with crooked values into the martial arts club. Then, why are you all staring at me? It's frightening, Wang Ting said innocently. We want to see if you have 3 heads or 6 arms. We want to see why you're such a monster, Xia Qiu said. Hey, enough. Is this how you ridicule others? Wang Ting said furiously. Ha ha ha. Everyone burst out laughing when they saw him suffering a setback. All right, enough. Stop teasing him. Give our king of freshmen some face. Zhuang He smiled too. Half an hour later, Wang Ting walked out of the martial arts club. He shook his head uncontrollably. The seniors of the martial arts club were easy to interact with. However, they were a little naughty and liked to tease him. But, this martial arts club is really not simple. I saw many 3-star soldier-level martial warriors today. Most of the students who managed to reach the 3-star soldier level were in their 3rd or 4th years. They had gone through many missions. Wang Ting could also feel extraordinary auras from these people. Birds of a feather flock together. Powerful people will only team up with powerful people. Wang Ting lamented in his heart. It was already evening. He went to the cafeteria to eat before going back to his dormitory to cultivate. The next day, bright and early on a Sunday morning, Wang Ting finished his breakfast. Then, he took his weapons and went out of school. When he reached the main entrance, he took out his student card and scanned it on the card reader. He had already accepted the mission, so it was recorded on his student card. Hence, he was able to exit the school without any worries. The entrance guard was very familiar with this situation. He knew that this student was going out to do a mission. Thus, he didn't stop Wang Ting. He nodded at him and said, "Young lad, be careful and come back safely." Wang Ting was stunned. Then, he immediately smiled and replied, "Thank you, uncle." The entrance guard looked at Wang Ting's back view as he walked further away. He muttered to himself, "These children are the hope of our future." Wang Ting left the university town. He took a taxi and headed straight to Mount Chunhua. During the 2 hours journey, Wang Ting closed his eyes and rested in the back seat. It made the driver in front extremely curious. However, he noticed that Wang Ting didn't have any intention of speaking, so he remained quiet too. 2 hours later, the car arrived in a village at the foot of Mount Chunhua. Mind you, this place was really a little secluded. If Wang Ting didn't pay a high price, the driver wouldn't be willing to drive here. You can wait for me here. I will come back before the sun sets, Wang Teng reminded the driver. Don't worry, brother. Since I promised you, I will only drive you around today. I will not accept any other customers, the driver patted his chest and promised. Come on, the money this youngster gave him was equivalent to him working the entire day. Even more, he didn't have to run around and tire himself out. This good opportunity might not even come once a year. Only an idiot would reject him. Wang Ting nodded and got out of the car. He pulled a villager, who was passing by, and inquired about Mount Chunhua. You want to go up the mountain? The villager Wang Ting was a middle-aged woman around 40 years old. When she heard that Wang Ting wanted to enter the mountain, she looked at him in astonishment and said, Young lad, the mountain is not safe now. You're really young. I feel that you should go home. The middle-aged woman blatantly sized up Wang Ting. She noticed that his skin was delicate and soft. Then, she looked at the taxi beside them. It was obvious that he came from the city. She was puzzled. What was wrong with these people? They didn't want to stay in a safe place and wanted to go to dangerous places instead. Did they feel that their life was too peaceful? I have some matters to settle, so I need to go up the mountain. I can't return empty-handed. Wang Ting smiled and said, Auntie, don't worry. I've prepared myself mentally. I won't joke around with my life. City dwellers like you don't listen to our persuasions. Yesterday, 3 youngsters wanted to go up the mountain too. I wasn't able to stop them no matter how hard I tried. They haven't come out yet. I wonder how they are. The middle-aged woman shook her head helplessly. Oh, 3 youngsters. Wang Teng was surprised. There were other people who came here. He asked in a composed tone, how were they dressed? Did they say why they wanted to go up the mountain? Why are you asking? The middle-aged woman was puzzled as she asked. I'm just curious. Wang Teng took out 200 renminbi and stuffed them into the middle-aged woman's hand. How can I take this? The woman's eyes lit up. Although she spoke politely, her hands were extremely honest. She clenched the money tightly, afraid that Wang Ting would take them back. Auntie, keep it. You deserve it. Nowadays, the information requires money too, Wang Ting smiled and said nonchalantly. City people are really refined and generous. The middle-aged woman chuckled. She then said in a soft tone, those 3 young men were dressed like you. Their attire was clean and tidy. I think that they also brought weapons. They said that they are going into the mountain to look for something and even asked the rhizotomist to lead the way. However, I don't know if they found anything. Are they looking for illusion grass too? Wang Teng wondered curiously. Am I going to fail my first mission? No, I've already come. No matter what, I have to go into the mountain to take a look. I just need 10 stalks of illusion grass. There might not be a conflict of interest. After pondering to himself, Wang Teng made his decision. He said to the middle-aged woman, Auntie, are there any other rhizotomists in the village? Nope, only that family. Very few people are willing to go up the mountain now. The middle-aged woman hesitated. She only continued because of the money Wang Teng gave her. However, Old Bai is the rhizotomist. His daughter often goes up the mountain with him, so she's familiar with the scenery there. You can ask her. All right. Thank you, Auntie. Wang Teng nodded. He stuffed another note in her hands and asked her for the address of the rhizotomist. It had to be said that money was really powerful. The middle-aged woman needed to farm, but she sent Wang Teng to Old Bai's house personally. Xiao Cao, are you home? Open the door. Someone is looking for you. The middle-aged woman knocked on the door. A few seconds later, the door opened. A young lady around 17 years old walked out and asked, Auntie, what's the matter? The middle-aged woman pointed at Wang Teng and said, There's a young man from the city. He wants to go into the mountain and needs someone to guide him. Why don't you chat with him personally? Enter the mountain? Bai Xiaokao frowned. She hesitated for a moment. Then, she thought of something and nodded. All right, ask him to come and talk to me. Okay. The middle-aged woman was delighted because she felt that she had facilitated the deal. She whispered to Bai Xiaokao, "Xiaokao, let me tell you. People from the city are all stupid and rich. If you want to bring him up the mountain, you should ask for more money. Don't lose out." Wang Ting was caught between laughter and tears. This auntie was really sly. Chapter 190, Picking the Illusion Grass. Wang Teng looked at the lady serving tea for him and thanked her. The lady appeared to be around the same age as him. She might even be younger. Her clothes were simple and plain, not as glamorous as what the city ladies wore. Her figure was petite and skinny, and her face was also similar. However, when she faced him, she didn't seem scared at all. In fact, she was pretty calm. Her house was a self-built civilian house. Actually, when Wang Teng was walking to her house, he had noticed that the other houses here were similar too. Wang Teng secretly sized up the condition of the house. From its simple and shabby appearance, he understood her family's situation. He drank the water and twirled the cup in his hand. "You look like my age. Don't you need to go to school? My family condition is a little special, so I dropped out of school." Bai Xiaokao sat down opposite Wang Teng. She shook her head and didn't want to explain any further. Instead, she asked, "Aunt Li said that you want to go up the mountain?" "Yes." Wang Teng nodded. He asked again, "I heard that your father brought other people up the mountain?" "Yes, 3 young men," Bai Xiaokao said. "Are they looking for this too?" Wang Teng took out his phone and showed her the photo of the illusion grass. "The illusion grass. Are you also looking for this?" Bai Xiaokao exclaimed in surprise. "You actually know about it?" Wang Teng was shocked for a moment. He nodded and said, "That's right. I came for this plant. It looks like those people have the same motive as me. Do you know where to find this?" "I do. My dad told me before, but I've never been there," Bai Xiaokao replied. Wang Teng frowned. He contemplated and said, "Do you have a map of the mountain?" "No. We rely on our experience to go up the mountain," Bai Xiaokao shook her head and replied. Wang Teng immediately got a headache. If he were to enter the mountain himself, he would be searching aimlessly. He wasn't worried about the dangers, but he would definitely have to waste a lot of time. At this moment, Bai Xiaokao said, "Although I have never gone there, I know the path. I can bring you there." "Oh." Wang Teng glanced at the lady. He didn't expect that she would voluntarily suggest bringing him up the mountain. Wang Ting had no reason to reject her, but he knew that the young lady wasn't doing it out of kindness. Thus, he asked calmly, "What is your requirement?" "I need money, and I want to look for my father too. They have been in the mountain for a day and a night. Based on my father's experience, they shouldn't have been gone for so long. They must have met with some accident." Bai Xiaokao bit her lips and said. This was reasonable. Wang Ting nodded and said, "Okay. Name your price." 3. 5,000. Bai Xiaokao gritted her teeth. At first, she wanted to ask for 3,000 but changed it to 5,000 at the last moment. She looked at Wang Ting with a palpitating heart. In the past, she wouldn't have asked for such a huge sum. However, the mountain had been becoming more and more dangerous. Entering the mountain wasn't an easy task. She had to take some risks too. The illusion grass was in a deeper region of the mountain. If her family didn't need money urgently, her father wouldn't have agreed to bring those people into the mountain to look for the illusion grass. Wang Teng thought that Bai Xiaokao would ask for a higher price. He didn't expect it to be just 5,000. As a result, he was stunned for a moment. Bai Xiaokao thought that he found it too expensive. A hint of disappointment flashed past her eyes. She hesitated and said, 3,000 is fine too. I'll give you 5,000. If you bring me to the place before noon, I can give you more. Wang Teng waved his hand nonchalantly. Bai Xiaokao gave a look of astonishment. Immediately after that, she said happily, "No problem. I know a shortcut. I will definitely bring you there by noon." "All right. Shall we go now?" Wang Teng said. "Wait for a moment. I'll change my clothes and bring some tools." Bai Xiaokao got up and ran into her room. A few minutes later, Wang Ting heard a faint conversation coming from inside. One of the voices sounded a little weak. If martial warriors didn't have good hearing, he wouldn't have heard what they said clearly. Mom, I'm going out with my friends to do something. I will ask Auntie Lee to send you some food in the afternoon. Don't worry. Go and do your things. You don't have to worry about me, and no need to trouble Auntie Lee. I can cook some simple things to eat. Okay. I should be able to come back before night. Bai Xiaokao was really fast. She changed into a convenient set of clothes and held a chopper in her hand. There was a bamboo basket on her back as she walked out of the room. Let's go. Wang Ting sized her up. Then, he got up and followed her out of the house. They left the village. The middle-aged woman that spoke to them just now was working hard in the field outside the village. Bai Xiaokao shouted at her from afar, "Auntie, I'm bringing him into the mountain. My mom is alone at home. Can you help me look after her?" Okay. The middle-aged woman raised her head and shouted, "Be careful when you enter the mountain." All right, Bai Xiaokao replied. They walked past the main road. Bai Xiaokao led Wang Ting into a small path at the side. After walking for some time, they went up the mountain. Mount Chunhua's natural environment was maintained quite well. After the purification of the force, it went back to its state as a primary forest. The number of wild animals in the mountain increased too. The trees around them were tall and dense. There were many dried branches and leaves piled on the ground. Clearly, there weren't many signs of human intervention. It looked like the nearby villagers didn't enter the mountain often. However, Wang Teng was someone who had witnessed the primary forest in the Xingwu continent. Mount Chunhua was almost the same as those primary forests. Nothing was shocking. Be careful. There are poisonous snakes and bugs here. Bai Xiaokao walked in front and used her chopper to chop the bushes and brambles at the sides. Very soon, she cleared a small path wide enough for one person to pass. You just have to take care of yourself, Wang Ting said indifferently. Bai Xiaokao frowned. She sighed in her heart, but she didn't say anything. She just diverted some of her attention to Wang Ting. The two of them walked for more than an hour. During this time, they didn't have any accidents. Bai Xiaokao managed to evade all the dangerous areas. At this moment, Bai Xiaokao stopped to take a rest. She drank some water and pointed to her left. We will head in that direction later. Last time, my dad brought me there. It's a little difficult to walk, but the journey will be much shorter. We will definitely be able to arrive before noon. Okay. Wang Ting nodded. He sat down on the rock at the side and continued, let's rest for a while. Bai Xiaokao sat down on another rock. She took out something that looked like dried meat and asked, do you want some? I'm not hungry. You can eat it, Wang Ting shook his head and replied. Bai Xiaokao didn't force him either and ate alone. At the same time, she sized up Wang Ting out of curiosity. Suddenly, she was shocked. She noticed that Wang Ting didn't show any hints of tiredness after traveling for so long. He didn't sweat, and he wasn't panting. He looked as if he was taking a stroll in a park. Does he practice martial arts? Bai Xiaokao wondered to herself silently. Anyway, they came to look for the illusion grass. This means that the illusion grass must be worth a lot of money. I hope I can get a few of them, Bai Xiaokao thought. After resting for 10 minutes, the two of them continued on their journey. I don't think my father walked this way, Bai Xiaokao said as she cleared the path. I found it a little strange on the way up just now. I couldn't notice any signs of other people along the journey, Wang Ting said. They should have taken another path. Bai Xiaokao was a little puzzled. She said, I haven't followed my father into the mountain for some time. Could they have found another path? A sudden thought flashed through Wang Ting's mind. Bai Xiaokao found the answer too. From each other's expressions, they could tell that they had the same idea. Unless this path is dangerous, be careful. Your dad wouldn't give up this familiar path for no reason, Wang Teng reminded. Bai Xiaokao nodded. She immediately heightened her vigilance and became even more careful. They walked for another half an hour, but they didn't meet any dangers as they had imagined. Bai Xiaokao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Crack. Suddenly, she seemed to have stepped on something. Bai Xiaocao's entire body froze, but she didn't dare to act blindly. She slowly lowered her head to take a look. She noticed that she had stepped on an ant nest that looked like a pile of dried grass. It had almost merged with the dried branches and leaves on the ground, so it was highly inconspicuous. Thus, when she relaxed and let down her guard, she stepped on it. Wang Teng saw this scene too. When he noticed that she was frozen on the spot, he hurriedly pulled her back. Buzz. The next moment, a dense buzzing sound was heard. A bunch of black flying ants instantly flew out of the ant nest. They swarmed towards Wang Teng and Bai Xiaocao. Not only that, but a pile of black ants also crawled out from the ground. These ants were bigger than normal. If you observed them carefully, you would realize that their heads were extremely big, and their mouths were ferocious. They moved swiftly as they surged towards Wang Ting like a swarm of bees. Oh no, these are mutated beasts. Bai Xiaocao's face turned white. She had been notably cautious along the entire journey and thought of many possible dangers. But she didn't think that there would be ant-like mutated beasts. If there was only one ant-like mutated beast, it didn't have any attacking power. However, they always gathered in groups. There would be more than 1 million or even a few million ants in a single nest. The numbers were frightening. Once you met them, you wouldn't be able to run away. At this moment, there were a bunch of them in the sky and a pile of them on the ground. The black patch of ants was charging at the two of them. It was very chilling. "I'm sorry. I implicated you," Bai Xiaocao said apologetically. "We're not dead yet. Why are you apologizing?" "It's just a nest of ants," Wang Ting said calmly. When he noticed that she was truly frightened out of her wits, the fire force surged out of his body. A ball of scorching heat welcomed the ants in the sky and on the ground. Boom! The black patch of ants immediately turned into 2 balls of fire. In an instant, they were burned completely. All that was left was a pile of ashes. The flame didn't spread to the trees around them under Wang Ting's exquisite control. It was extinguished in a blink of an eye. Bai Xiaocao looked at him with her eyes wide open. Martial warrior. She thought that Wang Ting was at most a martial disciple. She didn't think that he would be a martial warrior. What a young martial warrior. Bai Xiaocao felt that her perspective had widened. "Let's go." Wang Ting's voice pulled her back to reality. She walked forward subconsciously, but she was still a little absent-minded. "It's time to concentrate. Don't step on anything you shouldn't. If you meet a poisonous snake and it bites you instantly, I won't be able to save you," Wang Ting said. Bai Xiaocao shuddered. She immediately regained her senses and became extremely alert. She didn't dare to drop her guard anymore. Finally, when it was almost noon, the two of them came to the side of a cliff. "This is it." Bai Xiaocao stopped. She observed the environment around her and said, "My dad saw the plant around here in the past. You can look around to see if you can find any." Wang Ting scanned the surroundings, but he didn't see any signs of the illusion grass. He frowned uncontrollably. He walked to the cliff and looked down. "Here you are." He smiled and leaped down. The cliff was filled with all kinds of herbs and vines. There were more than 10 plants growing among the common grass. It was the illusion grass. When Wang Ting leaped down, he grabbed a vine with his hand. Along the way, he picked 3 stalks of illusion grass that were the closest to him. Then, he swung lightly and came to the area where the other illusion grass was. Just when he was about to pick them, a green shadow shot out from the bushes and attacked Wang Ting. "Be careful." Bai Xiaocao, who was on top, shouted in shock. "I've been waiting for you." Wang Ting smiled. He waved his hand, and the fire force spurted out, engulfing the green shadow's body. It hissed as it dropped down the cliff. It was a small green snake. Its color was similar to the grasses and bushes, so it was hard to see it. "It's just a mutated beast, not a huge threat," Wang Ting thought to himself. Suddenly, a few more green snakes shot out. They opened their mouths in midair and wanted to bite Wang Ting. Wang Ting took care of them easily. Then, he picked the other illusion grasses on the cliff. As for the illusion effect, with his spiritual power, it just felt like a mosquito bite. It was unable to affect him at all. Wang Ting stepped on a protruding part of the cliff with his left foot and arrived on the cliff. He landed lightly beside Bai Xiaokao. Done. Let's go back. Wang Teng kept the illusion grass and turned to speak to Bai Xiaokao. You're done. Bai Xiaokao wasn't able to react in time. This was too fast. She thought that there would be a hard battle, but Wang Teng killed all the snake-like mutated beasts easily with a few moves. These snake-like mutated beasts were extremely dangerous to these ordinary villagers. This fellow seems to be really powerful. Bai Xiaokao was flabbergasted. She wondered to herself in envy. If only I could be as powerful as him. I will be able to earn big bucks easily. What are you thinking about? Let's go. Wang Teng smiled and returned the same way they came. Suddenly, he stopped again. Why did you stop walking? Bai Xiaokao was puzzled. Someone is here. Wang Teng said. Someone is here. Could it be my father? Bai Xiaokao exclaimed in surprise. Very soon, a few figures appeared in another direction. When the middle-aged man among them saw Bai Xiaokao, he was shocked for a second. He exclaimed, Xiaokao? Dad, it's me. I'm so glad that you're fine. Mom and I were worried the entire night, Bai Xiaokao said happily. You little girl, didn't I say that you can't enter the mountain? Why did you come? The middle-aged man reprimanded her. He, someone gave me money to be a guide, so I accompanied him here. Bai Xiaokao laughed awkwardly. She pointed at Wang Teng and said, but, you don't have to worry. He's very strong. Look, I'm totally fine, right? You brought someone in? The middle-aged man's expression changed. Why is he here? He came to pick the illusion grass. We just picked them, so you came a little late, Bai Xiaokao said proudly. After all, even if it was Wang Ting's merit, she still managed to arrive before her dad. However, when the middle-aged man heard this, his expression turned ugly. He carefully turned to look at the three people that came with him and apologized hurriedly. I'm really sorry. My daughter is insensible. The three people snorted. They didn't even finish listening to him. Instead, they frowned and looked at Wang Ting. Did you come to pick illusion grass too? Chapter 191. What did you say just now? Wang Ting turned to the three young men when he heard them. The trio seemed to be around the same age as him. They were in tight clothes, and they were holding weapons as they looked at Wang Teng intently. Looking at their faces, they were most probably martial arts course students from another school. I have already picked the illusion grass. You came late. Wang Teng suddenly felt a little lucky. What happened today indeed had some element of luck in it. Bai Xiaokao and her father didn't know these people's abilities. They also wouldn't explain to Bai Xiaokao and his father how powerful they were. Thus, Bai Xiaokao's father chose the path he thought was the safest based on his own thinking. He brought these three young men a huge round around the mountain before they finally arrived at this place. As for Bai Xiaokao, she was a naive person. She didn't know that this shortcut was dangerous. That was why she dared to bring Wang Teng here. If it wasn't for Wang Teng, the ants would have already eaten her until only her bones were left after she stepped on the ant nest. The three young men probably never expected someone with the same intention to come here. By the time they arrived, Wang Ting had already beat them to the draw. They were too late. In summary, this was a series of coincidences. If any coincidence was lacking, Wang Ting wouldn't be able to pick the illusion grass successfully. When they saw Wang Teng admitting it, the young men's expressions instantly darkened. This was the first school mission for them. They didn't have any experience, so to be safe, they formed a team of 3. They thought that this mission would be a piece of cake, but they didn't expect this accident to happen at the last moment. If they failed their first mission, their schoolmates would tease them to no end. Also, not only were they unable to get the school credits, they would even get school credits deducted. Hence, it was expected that they were in a bad mood. Bai Xiaokao and his father immediately felt the tense atmosphere between the two parties. They were on tenterhooks now. They had just wanted to earn some money and had no idea that the situation would end up like this. Dad, did I cause trouble? Bai Xiaokao's face was pale as she asked worriedly. Sigh, it's my fault that I didn't remind you. There's no point in saying anything now, though. It looks like both sides are not easy to deal with. I wonder if they will vent their anger on us later. Bai Xiaocao's father whispered worriedly. The young man among them with a crew cut said, "Friend, I think that you're a university student too, right? Is your mission collecting illusion grass?" The school mission was different from the missions of the police, City Protection Bureau, and other government organizations. The Police and City Protection Bureau missions were sent to the different mission platforms simultaneously. Once someone accepted the mission, they would take the mission off the various platforms so that there wouldn't be any repeats. As for the school missions, the rule was that every school would upload the mission internally. Usually, the missions were given to the students through the mission system because it was inconvenient for the instructor, heads, and other leaders of the school to do it themselves. In this case, it was normal that the same mission would appear in the different schools. Wang Ting and the three young men were an example. "That's right." Wang Ting nodded. He didn't want to explain too much, so he said, "If there's nothing, please make way." I'm in a rush. He was really in a rush. His main purpose in accepting the mission was to give himself time to leave school and deal with his own matters. He had already wasted half a day here. He needed time to go back to Donghai too. There was a time limit for the missions. For missions like this that were nearer, the time limit was a day. The school's rule was that the students needed to go back to school by 8 p.m. There wasn't much time left for Wang Ting. "Wait. Our school's instructor released an illusion grass mission too. If you picked them all away, we wouldn't be able to fulfill our mission," the young man with a crew cut said. "Is that any of my business? You need to complete your mission, but I have to complete my mission too." Wang Ting looked at the three young men blocking his path and stopped in his tracks. He frowned and continued, "Also, if you came first and picked the illusion grass, would you have given them to me?" The young man with a crew cut didn't know how to reply to him. Just like what Wang Ting said, if they came first and picked the illusion grass, they wouldn't hand it to others. The mission explicitly stated that if you had already picked the required number of herbs, you would get more credits the more you picked. All of them were embarking on the path of martial arts. Resources were tight and scarce, so who would deny having more credits? F***K, there's 3 of us and 1 of him. Are we afraid that we will lose to him? In a situation like this, we can only fight. There are no other choices. Another young man with a terrible temper cursed instantly. He pointed his battle blade at Wang Ting. The young man with a crew cut and the last student knew that this matter wouldn't end peacefully after they saw this scene. They prepared to snatch the herbs too. The atmosphere tensed up like a taut string. A fight was on the verge of breaking out. But, the next moment, the 3 of them suddenly stared with wide eyes behind Wang Ting. They looked as though they had seen a ghost. There's no need to play these kinds of small tricks. Your expressions are not to the point. It'll give your acting skills a low review. Wang Ting was speechless. Suddenly, he felt a shadow coming down from above his head. Wang Ting slowly raised his head. A giant python was spiraling up from the cliff. Its body was extremely thick, and it was looking down on everyone with its cold and vertical pupils. Wang Ting was the closest to it, so he would get attacked first. There's a 1-star beast here. Damn it, I thought that I was smart. Wang Ting felt a little awkward. This was the first time Bai Xiaocao and her father had seen such a huge snake. Their faces turned pale with fright, and they weakly sprawled on the ground. The 3 young men had serious expressions on their faces. They started retreating slowly. Hiss. The huge python hissed to the sky and then plummeted down. As expected, its first target was Wang Ting. A ferocious aura surged towards him, along with a pungent stench. "Hurry up and run." Bai Xiaocao plucked up her courage and gritted her teeth as she shouted. Wang Ting didn't move. He stood on the spot and looked at the giant python falling on him. He shook his head and sighed. He had to say that this huge python was very unlucky. No matter who it provoked, it wouldn't need to die immediately. Yet, it chose to provoke him. It must die now. The huge head of the giant python was almost right in front of him. However, there was no change in Wang Ting's expression. He congregated his force and pushed his fist out. It was a serious punch. 2 bang. In an instant, The giant python's head exploded from the impact. It turned into a blood rain as it dripped down from the sky. The other half of its body fell to the ground. It twitched a few times, and then it stopped moving. Wang Ting. For a moment, the entire place was silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Bai Xiaokao and her father, as well as the three young men, had all lost their voices. They just stared absent-mindedly at Wang Ting and the half of the giant python's body on the ground. The impact was huge. It was only one punch, yet he managed to kill a one-star beast directly. What kind of power was this? Bai Xiaokao and her father couldn't wrap their heads around it. The three young men couldn't understand either. However, they finally knew that Wang Ting wasn't someone they could offend. Wang Ting had killed the giant python with a single punch, but there wasn't even a drop of blood on his fist. He turned and looked at the three young men. "What did you say just now?" The three young men's expressions froze. The bad-tempered young man who wanted to fight earlier had sweat all over his forehead. There was a smile at the edge of his lips, a smile uglier than a cry. He swallowed his saliva and said, "I think that there's a misunderstanding between us." 1. Chapter 192, Attack. The three young men were extremely depressed. They looked as though there was shit stuffed in their mouths. Where did this person come from? He looked really young, but he was so strong that he seemed like a bug. Also, picking illusion grass was a relatively simple mission that didn't have much difficulty. Why did this monster take it? They didn't understand. They didn't understand at all. Misunderstanding? Wang Ting looked at them with an ambiguous smile. He continued, "Somehow, I remember that this wasn't what you said just now." No. This is exactly what we meant. Since you picked the illusion grass, it's yours. We are the good youths of this era with comprehensive development in morals, intelligence, sports, aesthetics, and labor. How can we do something like snatching your gains? The trio shook their heads frantically, denying anything of the sort. Bullshit, they wouldn't admit it even if they died. The person in front of them was a powerful presence who could burst apart a one-star beast with a single punch. They had just become one-star martial warriors not long ago. If they fought with him, they wouldn't even be able to take one of his punches. What if he got unhappy and beat all of them to death? Their mothers told them before that when they followed their hearts, they must follow it decisively without any hesitation. Bai Xiaokao and her father were stunned. A moment ago, the three of them were still furious and determined. Now, they were so frightened. This was something new. "Don't you want to fight for a chance?" Wang Ting asked. Entrapment. This was definitely an entrapment. No. The three of them continued shaking their heads. In their hearts, they were filled with contempt. They weren't stupid and wouldn't be fooled so easily. "I was planning to give you some herbs, but since you don't want it, forget it." Wang Ting shook his head as though he was feeling pity for them. The edges of their lips twitched a little. They exchanged glances with one another and laughed awkwardly. "You must be kidding. We still have things to attend to. We will leave first." Then, they carefully retreated, afraid that Wang Ting would suddenly attack them and force them to stay behind. However, they were obviously thinking too much. If they didn't attack him, Wang Ting was too lazy to care about them. Wang Ting's gaze shifted to the dead python. Blank attribute *5 would force *6. He picked up the two attribute bubbles before inspecting the giant python's body. He didn't see any star core or star bone. But the scale armor on the giant python was worth some money. He peeled it off and stuffed it into the backpack he was carrying. "The meat and blood of this giant python will benefit you greatly. If you don't find it troublesome, you can carry it down." Wang Ting took some meat for himself and then got up to speak to Bai Xiaokao and her father. Bai Xiaokao and her father were a little scared of Wang Ting. However, they were elated when they saw that Wang Ting was willing to share the giant python's meat and blood with them. "Is this really for us?" Bai Xiaokao hesitated and asked. She still couldn't believe it. "If you don't want it, you can leave it here for the wild beasts," Wang Ting said nonchalantly. Yes. We want it." Bai Xiaokao nodded hurriedly. What a joke. This was the blood and meat of a star beast. To normal people, it was extremely rare. Eating it would not only benefit their health, but they could also earn some money if they sold them away. How was it possible that they didn't want it? On the other side, the three young men rushed down the mountain, not daring to take even a moment of rest. When they reached the bottom of the mountain, the trio looked behind them. They immediately heaved a sigh of relief when they noticed that Wang Teng didn't chase after them. Ha! Ha ha! I almost got frightened to death. The young man with a crew cut laughed awkwardly as he patted his chest. Ha ha ha! I almost peed my pants, the hot-tempered young man said in embarrassment. Let's go. I don't want to stay here a moment longer. I don't mind getting my school credits deducted. I will take it as a lesson learned. I just became a martial warrior, so I got a little proud. In the future, I must keep a low profile when I come out, the last young man said with lingering fear. Let's go, the three of them left without turning back. It was as though there was a ferocious monster chasing after them. However, you could still hear faint noises in their direction. Anyway, which school did that person come from? He was so scary. Is he from Donghai University? He might be from Huanghai Military Academy. Monsters like him will only appear in these two schools. He should be participating in the National No. 1 Martial Arts competition this year. At that time, we will know who he is. You're right. Their conversation couldn't be heard anymore after they walked further away. On the other side, Wang Ting finished settling his business and returned to the village. He bade farewell to Bai Xiaokao and her father and went back to Donghai in the taxi. Don't look anymore. You don't live in the same world as him. Bai Xiaokao's father sighed when he saw the absent-minded Bai Xiaokao beside him. I know. Bai Xiaokao said dejectedly. Wang Teng didn't go back right away. Instead, he went back home. In his house in Deer Garden. Li Xiaomei was a little surprised when she saw Wang Ting. She asked, Son, why are you back? Did you make some mistake and got expelled by the school? Wang Teng, he didn't expect that when he came back, instead of feeling happy, Li Xiaomei would be worried that he had caused trouble in school. Mom, do you have so little trust in me? Can't you think of something good? Wang Ting said angrily. Haha, it was just a casual comment. Have a seat and play with Dudu. I will cook more dishes tonight. Let me go make some nice food for you. Li Xiaomei knew that she was thinking too much, so she smiled in embarrassment and hurried into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Wang Ting shook his head. He walked to the living room and carried the little girl who was watching cartoons on television. He smiled and said, Dudu, did you miss your brother Teng? Yes. Dudu shifted her gaze away from the cartoon unwillingly and looked at Wang Ting. She nodded her head firmly. So obedient. Wang Ting tapped her nose and smiled. Past 6 p.m., Wang Shengwa knew that Wang Teng was home, so he threw away his work and rushed home earlier to have dinner. Wang Shengwa looked at the array of dishes on the dining table and smiled. Look, when you come back, your mother makes all these delicious dishes for you. Normally, we don't get to enjoy this treatment, right, Dudu? Yes. Dudu gradually became more familiar with Wang Shengwa and Li Xiaomei after interacting with them for some time. She started to be more outspoken too. At this moment, she was stuffing her face in the rice bowl. When she heard Wang Shengwa's question, she raised her dirty face and nodded her little head furiously. Ha ha ha. Wang Shengwa and Wang Teng burst out laughing. You greedy little cat. Li Xiaomei smiled and wiped Dudu's dirty face. Then, she took out some food for Dudu. She didn't forget Wang Teng, though. She piled his rice bowl until it looked like a small mountain. Eat more. Look at you. You just left for a few weeks, but you've become so skinny, Li Xiaomei said. Wang Teng was speechless. Indeed, coming home was a wrong decision. After he finished dinner, Wang Teng went to his rented house in the university town. The crow egg hadn't hatched yet. Wang Teng prepared to bring it to his school's dormitory in case it suddenly hatched without him knowing. He hurried his way back and finally managed to enter the school gates right on the dot at 8 p.m. This little brat. The guard looked at his back view as he ran away. He smiled and shook his head. In the logistics building. It was already 8 p.m., but the building was still brightly lit. Many students were entering and leaving the building. It seemed no different compared to daytime. Wang Ting went directly to the third floor to hand over his mission. He passed on the stalks of illusion grass, and his mission was deemed as completed. Wang Ting's first mission ended with a perfect ending. Well, although there was a small accident, it didn't matter. Then, he went back to his number 1 dormitory in section 3. The moment he stepped through the main door, before he could even turn on the light, he felt a gust of wind attacking him. "Who is it?" Wang Ting shouted coldly. He was shocked. The other party attacked exceptionally quickly. He couldn't dodge in time and could only use his fist to return the attack. Chapter 193. Is he dead? Bang! Wang Ting could feel his fist hitting someone's palm. Then, the sound of an explosion was heard. The huge force pushed him back and caused him to retreat continuously. "Huh!" The person in the dark exclaimed in surprise. Wang Ting took a step back. The floor below him cracked when he stepped on it. He then dispelled the force pushing him back. Wang Ting finally had the time to look in the dark intently. "Who are you?" "Me." The other party snorted. Then, the person attacked him without saying any words. There was a faint glow on his palm. It was the force, but it was extremely dense. The glow was contained. If you weren't extremely powerful, you wouldn't be able to reach this state. The other party was a silent and vicious person. Their attacks were ruthless and deadly. The faint green flow on their palm had congregated into the shape of a blade. It was extremely sharp. Every single punch, every single palm, and every single kick felt like weapons with frightening power. They were all aimed at his vital points. Wang Teng's expression was extremely solemn now. F***K. Who on earth did I provoke? Who sent such a powerful person to kill me? He cursed in his heart. However, he didn't dare to waste any time. He evaded a few attacks that were extremely lethal and turned around. He ran away. The attacker. Outside was his school. Wang Teng believed that if he was able to escape and shout for help, the powerful warriors inside the school would hear him and come to his rescue. No matter how powerful this killer was, they would be seized without any resistance and die on the spot. His plan was good, but the reality was cruel. When he charged to the door at a fast speed, he realized that there was an invisible energy wall blocking his path of retreat. Damn it, why are you creating such a huge scene just to kill me? Is there a need to do this? Wang Ting cursed in his heart. He didn't even need to think to know that the other party had set a rune array beforehand. The moment he came back and stepped into the dormitory, the array would be activated, and he would be stuck inside. Silently. When the powerful warriors in school discovered him, his corpse would have turned cold. What a scheme of catching the turtle in the jar. Since the other party had set this trap, they definitely had the confidence to kill him before the powerful warriors in the school noticed anything. Wang Ting felt that he was going to die. All I did was boast a little in the afternoon. Why are you forcing me to die at night? God, you're so heartless. Who on earth wants to kill me? Chen Xiangming, Ren Qingtsang. Wang Ting's mind was working furiously. The entire dormitory was enclosed and sealed off by the rune array. Even if he shouted, it would be useless. Even if the entire interior of the house was destroyed, no one would be able to hear a single sound outside. At this moment, another powerful gust of wind was felt behind him. The attacker attacked him from the back once again. Wang Ting felt a piercing pain in his heart, and his expression changed. Damn it, F***K, I'm going to give it my all. Wang Teng increased his speed to the maximum and executed his steps of gale. His entire body seemed to have turned into a gust of wind. He disappeared on the spot. Huh! The person in the dark gave his second exclamation. The person seemed shocked. However, the person didn't stop attacking. Feeling that Wang Ting's speed had increased exponentially, they also increased their speed. The attacker chased after Wang Ting relentlessly. How powerful is this person? Wang Ting immediately activated his spiritual sight. A ball of extremely glaring light entered his vision, almost blinding him. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. Important things must be emphasized thrice. Wang Ting was flabbergasted. This was the first time he saw such a huge force glow. What level of power is this? He didn't know. However, a cornered rabbit would still struggle. Waiting to die was never his choice. At this moment, he couldn't care about hiding his ability anymore. He released all his power in a single explosion. Instead of retreating, he attacked. The battle sword appeared in his hand and drew a dazzling sword glow in the air. He used his most powerful attack directly. 1 gold and 1 red. 2 sword presents intertwined with each other and surged out. Bang! Ha! A third exclamation was heard amidst the loud explosion. Wang Teng didn't care about this voice. When his sword presence collided with the other party, he used the impact to quickly shift back to the edge of the invisible wall. Boom, boom, boom. Within 2 to 3 breaths, Wang Teng released more than palm attacks. When his life was in danger, his potential erupted like a volcano. At this moment, his hand speed was astonishing. He knew that he wasn't the other party's match, so the only way was to destroy the array and escape. Crack! Wang Teng was elated when he heard this sound. Under the bombardment of his all-out force attacks, there were finally cracks on the invisible wall. The other party probably didn't expect Wang Teng's hidden ability to reach 3-star soldier level. Due to the addition of all the different forces, his ability could even be on par with a 4-star soldier level martial warrior. When he attacked with full power, he was able to break the rune array. Just as Wang Teng was planning to break the wall with one final effort, the invisible wall in front of him disappeared without a trace. His fist hit the air. He stumbled forward. Wang Teng was dumbfounded. The sound of explosions behind him had disappeared. Then, a crisp sound was suddenly heard in the room. Slap. The lights in the living room were turned on by someone. The sudden light caused Wang Teng's vision to blur. His expression changed. Suddenly, he heard a sound. "All right, stop creating a scene." It was the lazy voice of a lady. But Wang Teng didn't dare to let down his guard. He turned his head to take a look. The entire living room was in a mess. Many places were damaged, and there were holes and cracks all over. It was unbearable to look at. A young lady who looked around 27 years old was sitting on the sofa in the living room. She was looking at Wang Teng with interest. "Who are you?" Wang Teng looked at her and asked vigilantly. The lady smiled gently. "Guess." "Wang Teng. Guess your head." "What do you mean by guess? You barged into my house for no reason and started killing me without a single word. I almost got killed by you. Yet, you are pretending that nothing happened now? What are you trying to do? Look, you're angry." The lady saw Wang Teng's extremely black face and couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you laughing?" Wang Teng said with a black face. "You look quite interesting when you're angry. You seem like a 3-year-old kid who got bullied by the older child next door. Do you want to go back and find your mom now?" the lady said jokingly. "Who are you calling a 3-year-old? You are the one who needs to look for your mom." Wang Teng's eyebrows jumped furiously. He was indignant. Now, he finally understood that this lady wasn't here to kill him. Although he didn't know what motive she had, he was at least safe. Wang Teng took a deep breath and tried his best to calm down the flames of anger that got ignited by the lady. He said calmly, "Since you said that I'm a 3-year-old child, aren't you admitting that you're the older child next door?" The moment he finished speaking, the lady suddenly disappeared from the sofa and appeared beside Wang Teng. Then, knock. She knocked his head with her fist. Wang Teng's pupils constricted. He couldn't dodge the attack at all. He had to suffer. Hiss. She had exerted much force in her attack. It hurt so much that he grimaced in pain. "You are the one who said it. Why are you hitting me?" Wang Teng rubbed his head and glared at the lady. At the same time, he took a few steps back and kept his distance from the other party even though it was useless no matter how far he retreated. She was too frighteningly powerful. "I can say it, but you can't." The lady smiled ambiguously. Chapter 194, A lady with a bad temper. One in the living room, Wang Teng and the lady sat opposite each other. Wang Teng remained exceptionally vigilant, though. He was on tenterhooks. He really hoped that this lady would leave soon. However, the other party didn't seem to have such intentions. At this moment, because they were relatively closer, Wang Ting could finally look at her carefully. The lady's face was stunning. No one could beat her in looks among all the ladies that Wang Ting had seen so far. Not even Lin Chuhan. Also, her aura was outstanding. Her aura was lazy, noble, handsome, and even dignified. Many different auras merged together, yet it didn't feel contradicting at all. Or rather, she was a paradox on her own. Hence, no matter how contradicting her aura was, it wouldn't seem out of place. It would only leave a deeper impression on other people. This was a lady who would be in the spotlight no matter where she went. Thinking about this, Wang Ting was suddenly stunned. His full force attack just now didn't hurt this lady at all. It didn't even leave any traces on her clothes. This ability was really astonishing. Wang Ting couldn't see through her. He took a deep breath and said, "Sister, huh? Do I look very old?" The lady smiled and looked at him gently. "No, no." Wang Ting shuddered and shook his head hurriedly as he replied in an awkward tone. "I will give you one chance to reorganize your words. If you have anything to say, you can say it now." The lady crossed her arms in front of her chest and leaned against the sofa lazily. She was swinging her long legs lightly. They were extremely beautiful. Wang Ting's gaze was almost attracted to her legs. However, he sat upright, stiff as a poker, and looked straight ahead. He gave a dry cough and said, Young miss, may I know what you want?" "Oh, actually, I don't want to do anything. Old Peng said that there was an amazing talent in our school and asked me to come back quickly to take a look. Hence, I wanted to see what kind of talent you are. I wanted to see the person who has the ability to make me rush back from the battlefield," the lady replied calmly. There was a lot of information here. Just came back from the battlefield? Who on earth was this lady? Also, the old Peng she mentioned. Wang Ting hesitated before asking, "Are you talking about President Peng? Who else is there?" The lady picked her nails and replied casually, "And you are?" Wang Ting asked carefully. This lady had called Peng Yuanshan Old Peng. She must have a high status. "Me?" The lady raised her head and looked at Wang Ting. She replied in a playful tone, "I'm your principal." WTF? Wang Ting was dumbstruck. Principal? He looked at the relaxed lady in front of him. He wasn't able to link her with his image of a principal no matter how hard he tried. "Are you sure you're not joking with me?" Wang Ting asked curiously. The lady didn't open her mouth. Instead, she turned to look at the door. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the door. "That's right, she is the principal of our school, Dan Taixian, president." Wang Ting was shocked. At this moment, Peng Yuanshan strode in and nodded at him. He looked at the messy scene and smiled bitterly. "Dan Taixian, can't you find a different place to test Wang Ting's ability?" "No," Dan Taixian replied indifferently. Peng Yuanshan. When he saw even Peng Yuanshan suffering a setback in front of this lady, the frustration in Wang Ting's heart immediately subsided. Anyway, looking at this situation, this lady was really the principal who had never revealed herself before. But this was a little unimaginable. He looked at the lady who was lying sideways on the sofa lazily. She didn't look like a principal at all. The corners of Wang Ting's lips twitched a little. He shook his head. He didn't know how to describe his feelings now. Peng Yuanshan also felt helpless. He turned and said to Wang Ting, "I came over to tell you that she's indeed our principal. She just wanted to test your ability. I hope that you won't take it to heart. There's no need to worry either." Wang Ting didn't know what to say. It was impossible that he had no worries. In the fight just now, he had exposed all his ability in front of Dan Taixian. In the life or death situation, he had revealed too many things. Now, in front of this beauty, he had no secrets. This made Wang Ting a little uneasy. He wasn't able to let go of it easily. "All right, old Peng, stop wasting time. Don't loiter around the area. Don't you have many things to take care of in school? Hurry up and go back to do what you're supposed to do. Quick. I will take care of this fellow's business." Dan Taixian waved her hand impatiently and said. "Wang Ting." Peng Yuanshan, who was chased away for no reason, felt his veins popping out of his forehead. His top was going to burst soon. So you know that there are many things to take care of in school? Where were you before this? As the principal, you disappear all the time and leave everything for others to handle. Don't you feel ashamed? What a strong resentment. Wang Ting stared at Peng Yuanshan with wide eyes. As expected, Dan Taixian was a lady with an evil character. Even President Peng got so angry at her. What a poor thing. In the end, Peng Yuanshan snorted furiously and left with a stomach of hidden bitterness. Wang Ting couldn't help but glance at Dan Taixian. Why are you looking at me? Dan Taixian felt a little guilty. She said awkwardly. Look at old Peng, he's not young anymore, but he's still unable to control his emotions. I give him more responsibilities because I have high hopes for him. If it was others, I wouldn't trust them so much. He has to thank you then, Wang Ting said insincerely. He was snorting in his heart. Of course. I appreciate his ability and helped him in his career. Dan Taixian nodded and replied without any self-understanding. President Peng is gone. If there's nothing, please leave too. I still need to tidy up and sleep. Wang Ting didn't want to chat with her, so he changed the topic. Why are you in such a hurry? We haven't talked about serious business. Dan Taixian rolled her eyes. Then you can speak now. The author has nothing more to write to increase the words for this chapter, Wang Ting said helplessly. 5 cough, all right. Let me see, where shall I begin? Well, let's talk about your ability first. Among the younger generation, you are indeed outstanding. Young fellow, you hid really well. You're at 3-star soldier level and your battle ability is on par with 4-star. Also, you are a multi-element martial warrior. Let me count. Ice, fire, metal, wind, or are there any more? Dan Taixian counted with her fingers. At the end, she turned to Wang Teng and asked him. No, Wang Teng replied expressionlessly. He had only used these 4 elements just now. Even when he was breaking the invisible wall, he didn't have the time to use his other forces. Hence, he wasn't worried that Dan Taixian would notice something. 4 elements were enough. If he exposed his other elements, he was worried that Dan Taixian wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of sending him to the laboratory for research. In that case, let's take it as 4 elements. Dan Taixian gave Wang Ting a meaningful glance. Every martial warrior has their secret, big or small. You don't have to worry about me probing further. Actually, this is nothing. Although multi-element martial warriors are rare, there are still some. I met some 4-element martial warriors in the past, but unfortunately, I killed them so they couldn't mature. It's nothing. 2. Chapter 195. Capturing a You killed a few 4-element martial warriors. Wang Teng's heart pounded furiously and his head turned numb. He had a deeper understanding of his principal again. Not only was she evil, but she was also brutal. Damn it, based on what she said, he would be one of her targets too. It was too scary. He trembled uncontrollably. Wang Ting instinctively shifted away from her a little. He tried his best to keep a distance from this frightening and vicious lady. You seem scared of me. Dan Taixian seemed to understand what he was thinking. A chilling smile appeared on her beautiful face as she spoke in a composed tone. Ha ha, Principal, you are mighty and unsurpassed in your generation. I admire you and am in awe. Wang Ting laughed awkwardly. Damn it, if I could beat you, I wouldn't need to swallow this humiliation and force myself to smile and bow down in front of you. Oh, not bad. You have a glib tongue. Dan Taixian gave him a look of acknowledgement. There was a faint and mesmerizing smile at the edge of her lips. Suddenly, she said, Okay, let's not waste time. Kneel and kowtow to me. Huh? Wang Teng was stunned. We are just talking. Why do I have to kneel and kowtow? Does she want me to beg for mercy? This woman is indeed ruthless. Should I kneel or not? Although they say that a man shouldn't kneel in front of others, there was another saying that a man could take temporary setbacks. Educated people were amazing. They say everything. Whether you go forward or back, it made sense. If he kneeled, he would seem a little timid. But, if he didn't, based on how vicious she was, he might really get beaten to death. What should he do? This is very urgent. I need an answer immediately. Maybe I should just kneel. If dignity is an attribute, I can just pick it up and get my dignity back, right? Dan Taixian noticed that Wang Ting was in a dilemma, and his expression kept changing. She snorted. Why? You're not willing to? As a general stage martial warrior, don't I have the right to be your master? What? Wang Ting was dumbfounded once again. Then, he finally reacted. General stage. Master. This lady was unreasonably powerful. Also, based on what she said, she was a general stage martial warrior. She had no problem being his support. He could accept acknowledging a general stage martial warrior as his master. Also, he had exposed most of his ability already. He couldn't beat her, so the next best method was undoubtedly to turn her to his side. Yes, a teacher would be on his team. Many thoughts went through his mind. Wang Ting wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Oh, you're talking about being my master? You should have told me earlier. If you had said that, I would have kneeled immediately. You're a little mischievous. Dan Taixian glanced at him sideways. I don't have the guts. The cold sweat on Wang Ting's forehead started pouring down again. Are you kneeling or not? Dan Taixian asked. Principal, it's the 21st century martial arts era now. Shouldn't our way of acknowledgement keep up with time too? Since there were no threats to his life, Wang Ting thought about it and didn't want to kneel anymore. Oh, what do you want? Dan Taixian looked at him with interest. Why don't I offer you a cup of tea and make a meal for you? This is a display of my sincerity as your disciple, Wang Ting said carefully. Dan Taixian shook her head and laughed. All right, don't think that I don't know what you are thinking. If you don't want to kneel, you don't need to. Indeed, this routine isn't popular anymore. That's right, that's right. Wang Ting nodded frantically. Then, he ran to make a cup of tea and carried it over. Master, have some tea. Not bad. It looks very proper. Dan Taixian nodded. She took over the teacup and took a sip of the tea. As for the meal, you can keep it on my tab. My requirement is really high. When you reach the master level as a force chef master, I'll consider whether I should eat your dishes. Wang Ting. This stupid, arrogant person. Sure, Master Tilda. Wang Ting nodded and said. Stop fooling around. Dan Taixian rolled her eyes at him. She continued, honestly, I have never had a disciple before. In the past, many people persuaded me to accept a disciple to play with. I rejected them for all sorts of reasons because I find it troublesome. This time, old Peng urged me to come back, telling me that a rare genius has appeared in our school. He guaranteed that I would be satisfied, so I came back reluctantly. However, you indeed didn't disappoint me. You even gave me a pleasant surprise. I like your temper too, so I don't mind taking you as my disciple. All these years, those old fellows kept boasting about their disciples in front of me. Now it's my turn to boast. Little brat, don't disappoint me. If you embarrass me, I don't think you want to know the consequences. Then, she gave Wang Ting a knowing gaze. Wang Ting's heart shuddered. Suddenly, he had a bad premonition. He felt that his entire body was engulfed in her evil intention. He asked carefully, Master, who are the old fellows you're talking about? How powerful are their disciples? You won't know even if I tell you. You just need to know that they are all at the general stage. As for their disciples, let me think. The most powerful one should be at the 6-star soldier level. However, it has been 6 months since I saw him. It's hard to say where he is now, Dan Taixian said calmly. 6-star soldier level. And this was his ability half a year ago. Wang Ting felt that he could only laugh at himself. All he did was acknowledge a master. He didn't know that there would be so many troubles. Can I not acknowledge her as my master? Is it too late to regret? It's too late to regret. Dan Taixian saw through Wang Ting's thoughts and replied with a smile. Wang Ting. It might be a little difficult to be my disciple, but there are benefits too. In the future, no one will dare to bully you easily. I've heard of Chen's Yangming's matter. Although he's an exception in our school, many similar matters have happened outside. After being my disciple, if anyone dares to take advantage of their seniority, I will beat them to death for you, Dan Taixian said. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. Listen, this is what she should be saying. After being in this industry for such a long time, I finally found a thick thigh. If I cause trouble in the future, can I use your name? Wang Ting asked. I know that you're a mischievous person. Dan Taixian glared at him. However, she said nonchalantly, but I like it. If you have any trouble, use my name. Those that are afraid of me won't dare to look for me. As for those that aren't, it will be useless if you tell them my name. Wang Ting. He felt that there was something wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint it. All right, that's all for today. Report to my place tomorrow. As your master, I have to teach you some things. Dan Taixian stood up and stretched her body. She yawned as she walked to the door. Yawn Tilda, I really miss my bed. I rarely come back, so I must have a good sleep. Wang Ting got up and sent her to the door. Master, have a safe trip home. Master, take care of your steps. Master, be careful since it's dark. Knock. A furious fist landed on Wang Ting's head. His eyes teared up. When he raised his head, Wang Ting couldn't see Dan Taixuan's figure at all. Chapter 196. This little thing looks really exquisite. After sending Dan Taixian off, Wang Ting stood in the living room and looked at the mess around him. He shook his head uncontrollably. This crazy woman. She actually fought in his house directly. Fortunately, it was only the living room. If she had destroyed the entire dormitory, he wouldn't have a place to sleep tonight. I'll ask the school to repair the room tomorrow. Wang Ting ignored the scene and turned his gaze to the attribute bubbles floating on the ground. These attributes were dropped when Dan Taixian fought with him. Just now, Dan Taixian was still here, so Wang Ting didn't dare to move rashly. He had exposed too many things today. He must not let her know about his ability of picking up attributes. After all, Dan Taixian was a general stage martial warrior, and Wang Ting had no understanding of what they had up their sleeves. Although she might not be able to think of this bug no matter how hard she worked her mind, Wang Ting still didn't want anyone to notice any traces. Now, Dan Taixian had already left, so Wang Ting didn't have to worry anymore. He swept everything up with his spiritual power. He picked them up. Wind Force *20 Metal Force *18 Black-Hearted *10-2. When he saw the content of the last attribute bubble, Wang Ting was dumbfounded. Black-Hearted attribute? Why was there such an attribute? How black-hearted was Dan Taixian to be able to drop black-hearted attributes? Also, system, are you sure you're not kidding? Anyway, they only had a short exchange of blows, but she had dropped so many force attributes. As expected of a general stage martial warrior. If he beat a general stage martial warrior, he would drop many attributes, right? Unfortunately, he didn't have the ability. He would only be beaten to death. He chanted twice, "He who knows not, fears not." Then, Wang Ting hurriedly threw this deadly thought out of his mind, as far away as he could. Oh right, my crow egg. I wonder if I hit it during my fight just now. Please be safe. Wang Ting suddenly remembered his egg. He hurriedly placed his backpack on the sofa and took out the crow egg. He examined it carefully. What a close call. Luckily, it isn't spoiled. Wang Ting scrutinized the egg and heaved a long sigh of relief. Then, he went into his bedroom and placed the crow egg down safely. He opened the incubator he brought back and continued incubating it. He took his clothes and went to the bathroom to wash up. More than 10 minutes later, Wang Ting wiped his head and walked out. He dried his hair and was preparing to rest. He glanced at the crow egg on the incubator subconsciously. A crack suddenly appeared in his vision. Oh my God! It cracked. Wang Ting's eyes widened, and he hurriedly moved forward. There was really a crack. It was pretty obvious. It went from the right to the left, covering 1/3 of the egg. Crack, a faint, crisp sound was heard. Another crack gradually appeared under Wang Ting's gaze. Crack. This time, the crack was louder than the one before. After that, More than 10 finer lines started appearing abruptly around the huge crack. "It's hatching?" Wang Teng was stunned. To be honest, he was a little dumbfounded. Nothing had happened to it for a long time. Today, the moment he shifted it to his dormitory, it started to hatch. Was this a coincidence? However, this was a good thing. He had waited for so long, and it was finally going to hatch. Wang Teng stared at the crow egg without blinking. As time went by, he saw more and more cracks on the egg. But the little fellow inside didn't want to come out. Wang Teng decided to sit cross-legged on the ground and stared straight ahead with his hand supporting his chin. Time passed slowly. After more than 2 hours, the crow egg suddenly vibrated. A piece of eggshell dropped to the floor. Wang Teng's eyes lit up. He immediately became attentive. The little thing inside was pushing itself against the top of the crow egg. Pieces of eggshell kept dropping. Crack. An ugly head emerged from the egg abruptly. Wang Ting. Oh my God, this little thing is quite exquisite. Only the head of the little crow was revealed outside in front of him. Its body was still in the shell. It looked at Wang Teng and gave a childlike chirp. Wang Teng didn't help it and allowed the little crow to struggle on. In the end, after laboring for half a day, it finally crawled out of the shell. It had to be said that the descendants of the star beasts were different from normal animals. The little crow in front of him wasn't small at all. Its body was almost as big as a hen. There were even feathers on its body already. The descendants of a normal animal wouldn't be like this. Caw, caw, the little crow laid on the ground and cawed. It then flopped towards Wang Ting. This little thing is black, fat, and seems a little stupid. I can't see any hint of the magnificence of the giant crow from it. Wang Ting picked it up while passing judgments in his heart. The crow and the human stared at each other. Caw. Stop cawing. I don't understand crow language, Wang Ting said helplessly. Caw. Caw. The little crow continued cawing. It was so noisy that it gave Wang Ting a headache. Is it hungry? But I don't know what you eat. Oh right, I can ask Lu Jiqing. I wonder if she's asleep. It's really late. Wang Ting hurriedly took out his phone and contacted the pretty little lady from the pet shop. Wang Ting, are you there? Are you asleep? 5 minutes after he sent the message out, Lu Jiqing replied to him. Lu Jiqing, yes, I went to take a bath just now. What's the matter? Wang Ting, my crow egg hatched. However, I don't know what it eats. Oh, he also sent the photo of the little crow over. Lu Jiqing, it hatched. Congratulations. Lu Jiqing, it's a little big. 1 Lu Jiqing, I've checked the relevant information before. You can try feeding it with mutated beast meat. This was the first time Lu Jiqing saw a crow star beast. She was astounded and sent 3 messages continuously. Wang Teng thought for a moment. He didn't have any mutated beast meat on him. But he did have a piece of snake star beast meat. Wang Teng, can I use star beast meat? Lu Jiqing, yes. The effect of star beast meat is better than mutated beast meat. Your little crow is the descendant of a star beast, so it should be able to withstand the energy in the star beast meat. Wang Teng, okay, I understand. Thank you. Lu Jiqing, you're welcome. Bring the little crow to my shop when you're free and let me take a look. Wang Teng, no problem. Wang Teng ended his conversation with Lu Jiqing. He took out the piece of star beast meat from the snake he killed in the afternoon. He took it out from his space ring. Caw, caw, the little crow started cawing restlessly the moment it smelled the star beast meat. It started flopping on the ground and wanted to pounce on the star beast in Wang Teng's hand. You're really hungry. Don't be impatient. I will give it to you. Wang Ting cut a small piece of star beast meat with his battle sword and placed it beside the little crow's mouth. The little crow's speed was astonishing. It stuck its neck out, and the piece of meat in Wang Teng's hand vanished. Then, its neck hardened, and it swallowed the meat. Caw, caw. After finishing a piece of meat, the little crow continued staring at the star beast meat in Wang Teng's right hand. It kept cawing at him. Oh, you're a foodie. Forget it. I planned to bring this meat back and eat it myself. I will give you this benefit then. Wang Teng shook his head and smiled. He continued cutting the star beast meat to feed it. Chapter 197. Sneaking into rune lesson. The little crow had just hatched and was crying to be fed. Soon, it ate almost half of the star beast meat, and its stomach started to bulge out. It looks like I have to store some star beast meat in the future. This fellow is a huge meat eater. Wang Ting looked at the little crow in front of him and smiled. After the little crow finished eating, it rubbed against Wang Ting's palm and started to feel sleepy. Sleeping right after you eat. You seem really peaceful, Wang Ting smiled as he scolded the little crow. He thought for a moment, then took out a quilt and spread it on the corner of the bed. This would be the little crow's nest. The little crow didn't mind. It seemed to know that this nest was for it, so it cawed a few times and flopped over to its nest. Very soon, it fell asleep. Wang Teng wasn't too worried, as the little crow wasn't the child of an ordinary crow. Its vitality was strong, and it could handle many hardships. It wouldn't die so easily. It was already late at night when he settled everything. Wang Teng sighed and laid on the bed. He fell asleep right away. The next morning, Wang Ting ate breakfast with Hu Pingliang and his friends. Then, they went for their lessons. They only had 2 classes on Monday and 2 hours of training in the afternoon. As for the rest of the time, they could spend it freely. Wang Ting finished his first lesson in the morning. The lesson ended at 10 a.m. Wang Teng went to the logistics building to report the damaged situation of his room so that the school could fix it. Third section, room number 1. The higher authorities have already informed us. If not, you would have to write a confirmation report. The staff at the logistics department was a middle-aged auntie. She smiled as she spoke to Wang Ting. That's good. Please help me take care of it as soon as possible, Wang Ting said. Don't worry. We won't need much time. We will let you see the efficiency of our department, the middle-aged auntie said confidently. Wang Teng walked out of the logistics building and headed to the rune faculty for lessons. Among the 5 faculties, there were more students in the battle faculty and the command faculty. As for the smithery faculty, the Dan faculty, and the rune faculty, the number of students was only enough to form 1 class. Today, there was a rune lesson that didn't overlap with his lesson in the battle faculty. Thus, Wang Teng decided to sneak in. His plan was good, but which student didn't know him? He sneaked into the multimedia classroom right when the bell rang. He didn't take the seat in front but sat in a corner. The students in front didn't notice him, but the students sitting at the back rows discovered him immediately. They were all shocked. They couldn't help but discuss in low voices. Why is Wang Teng here? As an observer, I remember that when we were choosing our faculty, he wanted to apply for all the 5 faculties. At that time, I thought that he just wanted to attract the attention of the heads. I didn't think that he would actually come and listen. He's just trying to court other people's favor. He's probably just putting on a show. Let's see how many days he can persevere. Before they could continue speaking, their instructor walked into the classroom. The noises disappeared immediately, and the entire classroom turned quiet. The instructor nodded in satisfaction. It looks like you have gotten used to the style of our school. This is very good. Maintain this and observe discipline. The students below rolled their eyes. How can we not get used to it? If we are late, even if just a few seconds, we will be punished and asked to run in the stadium, do push-ups a few thousand times, or do frog jumps for a few rounds. We are tortured until we are half dead. Don't even think of skipping lessons. Who will dare to do it? Wang Teng didn't know whether he should laugh or cry. The instructors in Huanghai looked gentle, but their hearts were black. They had many ways to punish their students. Many tough students didn't believe it initially and tested the instructor's bottom line repeatedly. The results were obvious. From then on, no one dared to stand up. All right, let's start the lesson now. Last week, we talked about the foundational structure of runes. The instructor started his lesson. Wang Teng didn't come for the lesson last week, so there was a gap in his knowledge. Furthermore, he didn't have any lesson materials. Naturally, he was at a loss. However, As the instructor continued his lesson, bubbles started popping out of him. Then, they dropped on the podium and rolled on the floor. Other people wouldn't be able to see this scene. However, Wang Teng saw it clearly. He found it quite interesting. He picked them up. Basic Rune Foundation *2 Wang Teng was astounded. He felt a series of information appearing in his mind out of nowhere. Some basic rune knowledge fragments merged into his mind. Although it wasn't able to flow continuously yet, the gaps would soon fill up after picking up more bubbles. Hence, he wasn't worried. The instructor above taught seriously as attribute bubbles kept flowing out from him. At the end, there were 40 minutes of self-study. He would stand at the side and correct and guide them. At that moment, bubbles would appear too in a similar fashion. Wang Teng stayed hidden below. He picked up all the attribute bubbles seriously. Basic Rune Foundation *2 Basic Rune Foundation *3 Basic Rune Foundation *1 Basic Rune Foundation *1 The lesson wasn't long nor short. But, it was a huge gain for Wang Teng. There were 15 minutes until the class ended. Wang Teng looked at the attributes panel. Basic Rune Foundation, 32-100, Foundation. He was able to reach this standard after 2 hours of the lesson. None of the rune students here were able to compare with him. This was how lonely the life of a bug was. Wang Teng lamented to himself. After the instructor finished guiding the student in front, he walked over to the back. When he raised his eyes, he saw Wang Teng sitting in a corner. Of course, he knew Wang Teng. There were indeed people in school who didn't know Wang Teng, but they were out on business for that period of time. There weren't many of them. Lin Yisheng's impression of Wang Teng was still quite strong. He also knew about his stupid action of choosing all the 5 faculties back then. At that time, no one thought that he was serious. They felt that he just didn't know the severity of the issue. After he understood the real situation, he would naturally focus on his battle studies and not care about learning smithery and alchemy. However, today, he actually saw this little brat in his class listening to his lesson while hiding secretly in a corner. It was astonishing, but he found it funny too. He walked over silently. Lin Yisheng thought that his surprise attack would work on all the students, but in fact, Wang Teng had already noticed him. When he saw the instructor walking over, he hurriedly took up the rune pen on the table and started drawing the basic rune he had taught in the lesson. Huanghai Military Academy had a wide selection of facilities. For instance, every seat had a rune pen and rune ink placed on it for the students to practice in the classroom. When Lin Yisheng silently came behind Wang Teng, he had already drawn the 30 basic runes he taught during the lesson. At first, he just wanted to see whether Wang Teng was studying diligently or just putting on a show. However, when he saw the basic runes written by Wang Teng, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He had forgotten his plans entirely and began looking at this drawing solemnly. The more he looked at them, the more astounded he felt. This fellow has some ability. Chapter 198, A Dish That Lights Up. There were only a few minutes left until the end of the lesson. Some students wanted to look for the instructor to ask some questions, but they realized that he was staying at a particular corner of the classroom. What is the instructor doing? Isn't that Wang Teng? He actually came to observe. The instructor is looking at him drawing runes. Based on the instructor's expression, there seems to be a problem. The students that hadn't noticed Wang Teng at the start finally saw him now. They couldn't help but start discussing among themselves. Now, many of the freshmen had recognized Wang Teng's ability, but some of them still detested him. Hence, it was normal for them to say these words of jealousy. Ring, ring, ring. When the bell signaling the end of the lesson rang, Lin Yisheng shuddered. He regained his senses abruptly. Looking at Wang Teng again, he was a little flabbergasted. He has grasped the 30 basic runes already. I don't see any mistakes at all. These 30 runes are the foundation, but the mystery of runes isn't like what it seems. Most people won't be able to grasp it in a month. Is this fellow a beginner, or has he learned it before? If he's a beginner, his talent in this area won't be any lesser than his talent in martial arts, even if it can't be compared with it. The thoughts in Lin Sheng's mind kept churning. For a moment, he couldn't make up his mind. Instructor, Wang Ting felt a little scared by his continuous staring, so he called the instructor in a soft voice. Huh! Lin Sheng snapped back from his thoughts. His expression changed, and he said in a gentle tone, Wang Ting, why did you call me? Do you not understand anything? If you don't understand something, you can always ask me. No, the lesson has ended. Can I leave? Wang Ting asked. Oh right, the lesson has ended. You can leave. Lin Sheng reacted and laughed. Wang Ting, if you are interested, you can come and listen to my lessons more often. Are you able to hear me clearly at the back? Why don't I save a front seat for you? There's no need for that. I can hear you clearly. In the future, I will come and listen to your lessons often. Then, I will leave first. Wang Ting was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. You can leave. Lin Sheng smiled and nodded. He looked delighted with Wang Ting. Everyone. The whole class was confused, especially those who felt that Wang Ting would get into trouble. They were even more stunned. Instructor, did you take the wrong script? Or did you recite the wrong phrase? What is the meaning of this harmonious student and teacher relationship? No one could wrap their heads around the scene just now. Wang Ting didn't understand either. He only heaved a long sigh after he walked out of the classroom. He felt that the instructor was a little overenthusiastic. Could it be that he had some intentions towards him? What should I do? I feel that I'm being targeted. Wang Ting shook his head helplessly. He walked towards the cafeteria along with the crowd. In the afternoon, Wang Ting finished his battle faculty lesson and headed to the classroom with an ongoing lesson in the Dan faculty. He sneaked in once again. The classroom in the Fan faculty was different from those of the Rune faculty. The Dan faculty was based on alchemy, so their classroom looked more like an alchemy laboratory. There was a furnace in front of each seat and all kinds of forceps, pestles, and other tools beside it. The fire below the furnace was burning, so the students could use it to practice at any time. This allocation caused this place to look like a chemistry laboratory. When he saw this classroom for the first time, Wang Ting found it quite interesting. He couldn't help but remember the book he had read in his past life, Harry Potter. The potion classroom in the book had the same style as this room. Wang Ting found a corner and sat down. He tried his best to make himself less conspicuous. However, there were very few students in a single Dan faculty class. It was easy to tell that there was an additional person. Also, Wang Ting wasn't an ordinary male protagonist. He still had some presence. The instructor of this lesson in the Dan faculty was called Shozhuxiu. The moment he entered the classroom, he noticed Wang Ting. He was slightly stunned. Then, he smiled and said, "We have an additional student in our class today. It looks like my class is quite popular." Even a student from another faculty came to observe the class. "Teacher, Hes Wang Ting from the Battle faculty," a lady raised her hand and said. "Oh, so you're Wang Ting." Shozhuxiu was stunned as he spoke in enlightenment. "I've heard about your matter before. I heard that your observer right is acknowledged personally by President Peng. In that case, I have nothing to say. I hope that you can adhere to the rules of the class. Alright, let's start the lesson. I'll talk about the differentiation of spiritual herbs today." Shozhuxiu nodded at Wang Ting and then started talking without any stop. Many bubbles of different sizes appeared out of his mouth. He picked them up. Spiritual herb differentiation *2 Spiritual herb differentiation *1 Spiritual herb differentiation *3 The first lesson ended. Spiritual herb differentiation 31-100 Foundation. After the lesson, Shozhuxiu noticed that Wang Ting had already left. He had remained really quiet the entire lesson and didn't have any presence. He shook his head uncontrollably. It should be just on the spur of the moment. I wonder if he will come again next time. At 7 p.m., Wang Ting came to the staff dormitory. The student dormitory of Huanghai Military Academy was already magnificent enough, much less the staff dormitory. Along the way, the environment was quiet and peaceful. All the buildings were like villas, and the trees were well arranged. Wang Ting even felt that these houses were on par with the villas in Deer Garden. It was a little inappropriate to call these villas dormitories, though. As the principal, Dan Taixian received the best treatment for her living conditions even though she wasn't at school most of the time. Wang Ting pressed the doorbell in front of the door. Dan Taixian opened the door. She was yawning in her pajamas. Her hair was a little messy, and she looked half asleep. "You're here." She glanced at Wang Ting once and then ignored him. She turned and walked into her house. "Come in. Close the door on your way." As she spoke, she walked into the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. She then gulped it down. Wang Ting felt helpless. He closed the door and walked into the house. Dan Taixian didn't attend to him, so Wang Ting could only stand there awkwardly. He didn't forget to size up his surroundings secretly. There were many facilities in the room, but there weren't many signs of living. It looked like a house that just got renovated, besides the takeout meal that was half finished on the table. "She looks like a homebody," Wang Ting complained secretly. "Have a seat." Dan Taixian finished her water, but she showed no intention of pouring it for him. She was talking to him casually as she sat on the sofa. She took the phone off the table and pressed a button. A call was made. She spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. "Get some food for me." Wang Ting sat down on the sofa beside her. He was too tired to complain anymore. When he saw Dan Taixian's appearance, he guessed that she just woke up after a day of sleep and hadn't even eaten. Hence, he could only wait for her to finish eating before talking about the main topic. "Your master hasn't even eaten any food. Do you want me to teach you with an empty stomach?" Dan Taixian seemed to know what he was thinking, so she said to him with a pitiful expression. "Act. Continue acting." Wang Ting mocked her in his heart. However, on the surface, he gave a smile and said, "Master, you misunderstood me. How can I be someone like that? You must fill up your stomach before teaching me. If not, I will feel guilty. As expected of my beloved disciple. You know how to take care of your master." Dan Taixian was touched. "Ha ha." The corners of Wang Ting's lips twitched. "This drama king." Anyway, Dan Taixian leaned on the sofa and said calmly, "I understood most of your ability. You can't be compared with your peers, you are already ahead of them. This is your advantage. Don't slack off, though. What you need to do isn't to lead. You need to surpass your peers and the talented martial warriors in the younger generations. They aren't your competitors. You must be farsighted. Don't keep your targets within the school. Your master is invincible among my peers. I can even beat the older warriors until they cry for their mums. As my disciple, you don't have to be stronger than me, but you mustn't be weaker." Wang Ting gave a bitter smile when he heard this. His master was a little scary. Invincible among her peers. Is she boasting, or boasting? Dan Taixian pretended that she didn't see his expression. She continued, "However, just as we need to eat our food mouth by mouth, we also need to walk step by step. You mustn't hurry when it comes to martial arts. We have many talents in our 3rd and 4th years. Your path will begin within our school. I'll give you a target. From tomorrow onwards, you will challenge one top 100 students until you reach the very top. Master, you are making me a target for all. I will definitely become the public enemy of the school if I challenge one person a day with my identity as a freshman. They will hate me to death." Wang Ting was speechless. "What are you afraid of?" Dan Taixian scolded him. "So what if you become the public enemy of the entire school when you defeat them? They will only respect you and be afraid of you. Powerful people will only be friends with powerful people. They don't lack friends." "All right, everything you say is right." Wang Ting could only nod in reply when he saw her getting angry. Well, he was the one who recognized her as his master. How did that saying go? Masters and ladies are hard to raise. Furthermore, the person in front was his master as well as a lady. He couldn't afford to provoke her. Anyway, he wasn't afraid of anything. He just felt that there was no need to do this. This wasn't the only path to become strong. They were all schoolmates. Why did they have to become enemies for nothing? It wasn't good. By now, Dan Taixian had realized the situation too. Wang Ting wasn't someone afraid of trouble. If not, he wouldn't have tricked all the second-year students and even dared to speak up to the instructor. I know what you are thinking. However, challenges between martial warriors are common. Most people will not hate you for their loss unless he's a narrow-minded person. If you are not as powerful as the other person, it's natural that you will lose. They can just train harder for 3 or 5 years and challenge the person again. Hence, I have to say that you're overthinking, Dan Taixian said. Wang Ting knew that she was doing it for his sake when he saw her explaining to him so patiently. He nodded and said, Master, I understand. All right. There's no need to be so stern. I'm your master. Why will I harm you? Dan Taixian smiled and waved her hands blatantly. Wang Ting felt that she was unreliable. It would be hard for him to feel at ease with a master like her. The doorbell rang at this time. Little Tungzi, open the door, Dan Taixian commanded him. Wang Ting. To hell with Little Tungzi. My name is not Little Tungzi. You are Little Tungzi. Phut. I don't care what your name is. You just can't call me Little Tungzi. Wang Ting almost fainted in anger. He had the feeling that he was going to fall into this lady's hand. Once again, he questioned whether it was a mistake to recognize her as his master. Hurry up. Your master is hungry. Dan Taixian urged him when she noticed that he didn't move for a long time. Wang Ting pulled a long face. He kept muttering, if it wasn't for the fact that I can't beat her, if it wasn't for the fact that I can't win her, as he walked to the door and opened it. A fat person stood outside the door. When he saw Wang Ting on the door, he was confused. He thought that he had knocked on the wrong door, so he turned his head to look at the house number. Honestly, he looked a little clumsy and cute. This is the right location. You can give me the food, Wang Ting said. Oh, okay. The fatty looked at the house number and confirmed that he came to the right house. He then passed the food boxes in his hand to Wang Ting. He didn't ask anything, just watching Wang Ting as he closed the door. Then, he stood outside and contemplated for a moment while touching his chin. Then, his eyes lit up. He punched his right palm with his left fist and nodded to himself. He seemed to have understood something. As for what he understood, who knew? When Wang Ting placed the food box on the table, Dan Taixian opened them excitedly. An intense fragrance permeated throughout the room. It smells so good. How can it smell so good? Wang Ting's gaze got attracted by the food uncontrollably. Golden rays shone brightly. It was so glaring. He was going blind. Could it be that this was the legendary shining food? Wang Ting was stunned. Did something strange enter the story? This was a martial arts story, not a master chef story. When she saw Wang Ting staring as though he had seen a ghost, Dan Taixian smiled and said, See? This is the work of a force chef master. If you want to cook for me, you need to have this standard. Did you see the person who sent the meal? He's a force chef master. Wang Ting. That clumsy and cute fatty was a force chef master. Chapter 199, My Stupid Disciple. When he got reborn in the martial arts era, Wang Ting slowly understood one thing. You can't judge a book by its cover. The old lady at the side of the road might be a martial arts master. The butcher might be a formidable warrior that could clear a path for himself with a single knife, and a dumb-looking fatty could be a force chef master. The delivery man might be sending food to some people, but it might not be because his status was low. It was because the person who needed him to send the food was too powerful. Force chef master was a forward-looking occupation that could earn a lot of money. Also, the martial warriors respected them very much. Force chef masters were also the guests of many mighty martial warriors. Thus, never look down on anyone, especially those people that looked ordinary. Dan Taixian's dinner was sumptuous. The food box had 5 layers. One layer contained crystal-like, plump rice, while the other had refreshing and delicious light soup. There was a film of faint glow on top of the soup. The remaining 3 layers contained fish, meat, and vegetables. It was a simple combination, but the taste and style were unique. Every dish was glowing. It wasn't an exaggeration. They were really glowing. glowing food wasn't just a joke. Dan Taixian ate the food happily. Her speed was astonishing, but she wasn't stuffing her face. It wouldn't make people feel that she was impolite. Instead, she looked like a dining queen. She didn't lose her elegance and even gave people a pleasant feeling. This caused an increase in appetite for the people beside her. Well, at least when Wang Teng looked at her, he suddenly felt a little hungry. This is weird, this is weird. I just ate my dinner not long ago. Master, why is this food glowing? Wang Ting swallowed his saliva secretly as he asked the question in his mind. Because of force. Dan Taixian replied casually. Force? That's right, the food made by Force Chef Masters are mostly made of star beast meat and spiritual herbs. These ingredients have a common point, force. Using special cooking methods, the Force Chef Masters will activate the force in the ingredients so that they will give the best effects in aiding cultivation. Now, you should know why Force Chef Masters have to be martial warriors, Dan Taixian said. It's because only martial warriors can feel the movement of force. Wang Ting nodded and replied. Speaking of Force Chef Masters, I have to show my respect to the Xingwu continent. They are able to advance this secondary career up to this stage. This is rare, Dan Taixian praised sincerely. Master, are you sure that you're not saying this because force dishes are too delicious? Wang Ting was too calm to be fooled by her. Oh, my stupid disciple, how can your master be someone like that? Dan Taixian evaded Wang Ting's gaze and laughed strangely. Wang Ting. Wang Ting felt his head hurt. All he wanted to do now was stay away from this lady he had to call master. Her every single sentence would stimulate him. While it made him furious, he felt helpless too. He forced himself to be patient and waited for Dan Taixian to finish eating. She got up and patted her stomach, which seemed as flat as before. She burped and said, I'm full and satisfied now. Follow me. Let's have a friendly after-meal activity between the master and the disciple. Wang Ting suddenly stumbled the moment he stood up. He said shyly, I don't think that's good. Hehe, you little fellow. You're really naughty. Dan Taixian gave a strange smile and walked into the house. Wang Ting suddenly felt his head turning numb. He started scolding himself secretly for being too talkative. He hurriedly jogged and caught up with his master. Master, exercising right after eating is bad for your stomach. Why don't we rest for a while before starting? Do you think that this small exercise will harm my stomach? Dan Taixian said with disdain. Wang Ting followed Dan Taixian to a spacious training room. Dan Taixian moved her limbs and said to Wang Teng, there are suitable scriptures and battle techniques for everyone. Hence, I will not teach you some things easily. It all depends on your choice. Also, nothing in this world is free. If you want something better, you need to fight for it. But, from today onwards, I will suppress my ability and fight with you at your level. This is to groom your battle experience and battle awareness. From what I see, these are the real necessary qualities of a martial warrior. I have seen many martial warriors coming back from the battlefield. Many of them don't have amazing battle techniques or profound scriptures. But, when they fight with those proclaimed talented martial warriors, they are able to win by a landslide. I don't want you to become that kind of martial warrior who only has ability but no compatible battle power. In the end, it's nothing. I didn't fight to my heart's content yesterday, so let's continue tonight. As she spoke, she suddenly shouted loudly, Come. Her domineering aura exploded instantly. Surprisingly, she attacked first. She stepped on the ground with her bare foot and seemed to have turned into an arrow as she stabbed Wang Ting's heart with her hands that felt as sharp as a blade, bringing along a powerful gale with her. Her first attack was aimed right at his lethal spot. She showed no signs of holding back. She's so powerful. Wang Ting's pupils constricted. His reaction was swift as he took a step forward and tilted his body to evade the attack. He aimed his fist at Dan Taixian's temple viciously. But, the next second, she had already disappeared on the spot. She appeared on Wang Teng's left and swept her leg at Wang Ting without any mercy. Wang Ting barely dodged the attack. She was attacking him non-stop like a furious storm. There was no interval in between. Boom, Boom, boom. Wang Ting was struggling to cope with her. He couldn't retaliate at all. He could feel that Dan Taixian had indeed suppressed her power until his stage, but he was still unable to resist. Extremely powerful. So powerful that it felt unrealistic. She really didn't exert her full power yesterday night. The corners of Wang Ting's lips twitched. He was dumbstruck. To hell with multiple element force, to hell with extreme speed, he had executed everything. However, it was useless. Dan Taixuan's battle power had reached the peak of perfection. It was so frightening that it made him feel helpless. F***K, I'll fight with my all. Wang Ting was steadily losing his ground. When his leg collided with Dan Taixian, he felt numb. He was determined. He didn't care if he could win her or not. He just fought with her forcefully. Half an hour later, Wang Ting laid on the ground. His entire body was hurting, and he couldn't stand up at all after the fight. "Master, you're too vicious." He spoke in a hoarse voice. His throat was dry. Dan Taixian smiled gently. "My stupid disciple, your master is doing this for your sake. Today, I'm fighting with you. In the future, you will meet all kinds of enemies, and they will give you a lethal blow immediately. They won't care if you're hurting. Also, this is the only way to force out your potential so that you will grow continuously." Dan Taixian wasn't lying when she said this. She was indeed doing this to force him to release his potential. But today was just the first day. Was there a need to be so inhumane? This was definitely revenge. This narrow-minded lady. Wang Ting rolled his eyes and stared at the ceiling. He expressed that he didn't want to reply to his black-hearted master. All right, it's all right. I know what I'm doing. On your way back, go to the logistics department to buy a bottle of Blade Jade cream and wipe it all over your body. I promise that you will be alive and kicking tomorrow. Then, you can continue this training of love with me." Dan Taixian chuckled. After sending Wang Ting off, she stood alone in front of the door for a while. Suddenly, a smile appeared at the edge of her mouth. "I didn't waste my trip back. I wasn't able to do this when I was his age." Chapter 200. Challenging Top 100. Wang Ting dragged his tired body as he left Dan Taixuan's house. He seemed spoiled. Whenever he thought of the fact that he would need to seek a living under the hands of Dan Taixian, he immediately felt his future turning grey. He turned his head and looked back. At the moment, Dan Taixuan's house looked like a demon cave. It was immersed in the dark. Wang Ting followed Dan Taixuan's advice and came to the second floor of the logistics department. It was already late, but there was still staff working. Wang Ting expressed his intention. "Black Jade cream." The staff member was a middle-aged man. He raised his head in astonishment, but he didn't say much. He just said directly, "One for 100 school credits. You can use it for 5 days. "What?" Wang Ting felt hopeless once again when he heard the price. "Why is it so expensive?" "No, it's not expensive. It's good value for money. I'm not cheating you," the middle-aged man said expressionlessly. Wang Ting highly suspected that Dan Taixian was helping the logistics department in their sales. If not, why would she fool him into buying this black jade cream? 100 school credits for one. Why don't you rob me? You even say that it's not expensive. Not expensive your head. I have seen many students like you. All of them wanted to exchange items, but once they heard the school credits, they couldn't bear to part with them. It's as if I am taking a piece of meat from their bodies. I feel like I'm forcing you all to buy." The middle-aged shook his head and said. Wang Ting was speechless. "Talk is cheap. Look at your price. Who will be willing to buy?" But he remembered his condition and the brutal training he had to undergo tomorrow night again. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and say, "Give me one." "That's right. You will be able to earn more school credits, so don't hug it too tightly. It's only meaningful once you spend it." The middle-aged man finally gave a smile. Wang Ting took the black jade cream and turned around to leave. He felt his heart scrunching up in pain. When he accepted the challenges from the second-year students, he only earned 100 school credits every match after working so hard. However, This stupid blade jade cream actually required 100 school credits, and he could only use it a few times. The school credits he just collated had to be all used to fill this bottomless pit. Looks like I have to find other ways to earn school credits. Wang Ting touched his chin as he pondered aloud. Anyway, since I need to challenge the top 100 students in school, I can't do it for nothing. This is tough labor. Can I do something about this? Speaking of it, it feels a little exciting to challenge the top 100 students in school. I wonder if they will gang up and beat me to death. Don't worry, let me think about this carefully. Wang Ting pondered all the way back to his dormitory. When he entered his house, he noticed that the damaged living room had already been repaired. Their efficiency was truly amazing, Wang Ting exclaimed. He opened his bedroom door and walked in. A black shadow pounced over immediately and cawed. It almost sounded a little pitiful. Wang Ting slapped his head. Oh my, I forgot about you. People were coming to repair his room, so he had locked his bedroom when he left. He wasn't worried that anything would happen in school, but he was afraid that this little fellow would run away and get lost. He didn't come back for a day. All he did was leave some star beast meat for it in the morning before he went out. It was obviously not enough for the little crow. It must be famished now. It's my fault. Wang Ting rubbed the little crow's head. He took out star beast meat and fed it. The little crow immediately threw its bad mood away beyond the highest heaven when it saw food. Of course, it didn't know what the highest heaven was. It only cared about eating. Eat slowly. There will be enough for you. Wang Ting was afraid that the little guy would choke, but he was thinking too much. The little crow ate smoothly, one piece of meat per bite. Its throat moved like a machine and swallowed everything. He was worried for nothing. After some time, the little crow was finally satisfied. It started sauntering around the room while wobbling left and right. Wang Ting's jaw almost dropped. It grew a little too fast. It just hatched 1 day ago, yet it was able to walk already. Why are you so strong? Unfortunately, it still hadn't grown its feathers. Wang Ting didn't care about it and allowed it to do whatever it wanted. He took his clothes and the black jade cream and walked into the bathroom. He took off his clothes and released the hot water. As the hot water flowed, he applied the blade jade cream all over his body. The instructions on the black jade cream said that after applying it, you needed to soak in hot water. This would help with the absorption of the medicine. Yes, it would be great if the water was scorching and steaming, the kind that could burn a layer of skin off your body. Wang Ting was really vicious. He turned the temperature to the highest. After the bathtub was filled, he dipped his hand into the water with fire force flowing around his palm. The temperature of the hot water kept rising. When Wang Ting felt that it was enough, he stuck his leg inside to test the water temperature. Suddenly, he felt that he might be seeking death. However, to hasten the absorption of the medicine, he forced himself and sat inside the bathtub while grimacing in pain. Gasp! I'm getting cooked. Steam started rising from his forehead. The instant he entered the water, the scalding heat almost caused him to jump. However, very soon, a cool and icy feeling started spreading from the black jade cream. It engulfed his body and neutralized the heat from the hot water. I see, so this is the effect of the black jade cream. I knew that it wouldn't be so crazy. Half an hour later, the temperature of the warm water returned to normal. The black jade cream on Wang Ting's body also started dropping by itself. He walked out of the bathtub while feeling invigorated. The tiredness and pain on his body had very much subsided. Once the medicinal property spreads throughout my body, I will be able to recover by tomorrow. Wang Ting pondered. He wiped his body, put on his pajamas, and dried his hair. Then, he went back to his bedroom and sat cross-legged on the bed. He started cultivating. The flowing of force would help with the conversion and absorption of the black jade cream. I will cultivate the Raging Bull skill when I have the time. Before you learn martial arts, you need to get beaten first. Getting beaten is a technique too. A silent night. The next day, Wang Ting went to his lessons as per normal. Tuesday was filled with classes. Thus, he didn't have the time to observe lessons from other faculties. He could only wait for the lesson to end to run there and pick up attributes. No one noticed him because when he went over, the other students had already left. Also, he was just passing by. He activated his spiritual power, and with a single thought, he swept all the bubbles and collected them. He didn't need to exert much force at all. It was simple and convenient. In the afternoon, after he finished eating, Wang Ting made use of the afternoon resting time to go to the dormitory of the top 100 students. First section, room number 100. Although it was just the house at the end of the line, it was still the first section. It represented the last student of the 100 most powerful students of Huanghai Military Academy. Before school started, he had heard senior brother Zhu Dao saying that the top 100 students were at least 3-star soldier-level martial warriors, and all of them had gone through many missions. They were experienced in actual combat, and their ability couldn't be compared with ordinary students. Wang Ting wasn't worried, though. With his current battle prowess, it might be a little tough for him to challenge the front-ranked students of the top 100, but he was still confident of beating the ones at the back. His only worry was that the top 100 students were rarely in school. They had almost completed their modules, so normally, they were outside doing missions. If they were not in school, he wouldn't be able to complete the task Dan Taixian gave him. Would he suffer at night if he couldn't complete the task? When he thought of the unpredictable lady that was like a devil, Wang Ting felt that he should temporarily keep a low profile and complete the task she assigned to him properly. He walked forward and knocked on the door. Fortunately, someone responded. The person who walked out was a tall and young man. However, he looked a little old. His face was covered with a mustache. Wang Ting? He was a little surprised. He recognized Wang Ting. Yes, it's me. Senior Yu-kun, are you free tonight? Wang Ting had already investigated this number 100 senior. Actually, it wasn't difficult. There was a ranking for the top 100 students. It was shown on the school's official website, so anyone could see it. Of course, there was only a brief introduction of the students. The school wouldn't reveal all the details, but this was enough for Wang Ting. What do you want? Not gay. Yu-kun seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed, and he took a step back abruptly. Gay? Wang Ting immediately felt stunned. He froze on the spot. WQNMLGB. Wang Ting almost exploded in anger. But, he thought of today's motive and took a deep breath to force himself to calm down. He said, Senior, I came to challenge you. Challenge me? Yu-kun's expression turned stern. He stared at Wang Ting with a frightening gaze. Do you know what you're saying? Sorry. I can't disobey my master. Wang Ting replied. You have a master. Yu-kun's expression changed. He continued, as expected of a genius. You just came into university not long ago, yet you have already been spotted by an instructor. Or rather, could it be the president? Wang Ting didn't reply to him. Instead, he said, 7 p.m., martial arts arena. Senior, you will come, right? You seem really confident. Yu-kun said. More or less. If not, I won't dare to come and look for you, Wang Ting smiled and said. Ha ha ha, all right. I will fight with you and let you see the power of the top 100. Yu-kun laughed. I will wait for you. Wang Ting turned around and left without saying anything more. Yu-kun stood at the door and squinted his eyes slightly as he watched Wang Ting walking further away. Then, he dialed his instructor's number and told him about Wang Ting's challenge. At the same time, he wanted to know who Wang Ting's master was. Unfortunately, his instructor didn't tell him the answer. He just said helplessly, use your full power to fight with him later. Yu-kun hung up the call. His instructor didn't tell him specifically, but he wasn't stupid. He guessed that Wang Ting's master must be a higher authority of the school. I'm so envious. A genius doesn't need to look for a master. The powerful people will lay their eyes on him, unlike me. I remember how much effort I used before I found my master, Yu-kun muttered to himself. Temporarily, only a few people know that Wang Ting was challenging Yu-kun. It wasn't known to everyone like the challenges of the second-year students. After 6 p.m., Yu-kun came to the stadium. When he noticed that Wang Ting hadn't arrived, he went directly to the martial arts arena. There, he stood in the middle of the martial arts arena and closed his eyes to take a rest. At this moment, the students training in the stadium finally realized that something was going to happen. Number 100 Yu-kun. He went up to the arena. Is he planning to have a duel with someone tonight? F***K, this is a huge piece of news. The battle of number 100. Hurry up and inform everyone to take a look. It was publicly known that one could challenge the ranking of the top 100 students. The person who won would climb up the rank. It was an honor. Some people regained their senses and took out their phones to send messages to their class WeChat groups. Some went to tell their roommates. In a short span of fewer than 10 minutes, many people surged into the stadium. When Wang Teng arrived, he was still talking on his phone. I know. I'll go back after the duel. Why will I slack off? I'm definitely not that kind of person. Alright, no problem. I will win. What if I can't win? You can do anything to me. That's right, I said it. I'm at the stadium. I can't talk anymore. Can I hang up? After receiving confirmation, Wang Ting hung up the call. He heaved a long sigh of relief and said, "Oh my God, women are indeed troublesome. No matter how strong the lady is, she's no exception." When Wang Ting saw Yu-kun standing in the arena from afar, he walked forward. Suddenly, a fatty pulled him back sneakily. "Junior Wang Ting. You are." I'm a third-year student from the command faculty, Zhuge Xiaoyong, the fatty said. Your name is quite impressive," Wang Ting said in astonishment. "Of course. My actual name is Zhuge Changliang, but I admire Zhuge Liang very much, so I changed my name. I can't compare with Zhuge Liang's achievements now, but one day, I will definitely surpass him. At that time, I will change my name to Zhuge Daliang," Zhuge Xiaoyong said. "Fut, you are a genius. You have my respect." Wang Ting was speechless. "You speak too highly of me. Do you have something to tell me since you stopped me?" "Oh, it's like this. Yu-kun is going to have a duel with someone. I started a bet. I don't know who the challenger is, but it must be a third-year student. Hence, the odds are smaller, 3:1. Are you interested?" Zhuge Xiaoyong looked around him carefully before speaking to Wang Ting in a low voice. Wang Ting was flabbergasted. Mind you, the school was known for its strict discipline. This fatty was really bold to do such a thing. "Fatty Zhuge, you are absolutely unrepentant. How many times have you been caught? Why do you still have the guts to open a betting stand?" A mocking voice suddenly came from the side. F***K, I was wondering who it is. You frightened me. Zhuge Xiaoyong patted his chest, which wobbled under the force. He continued angrily, "You Shuashin, please don't appear without a sound. If I get a heart attack, will you compensate me?" "Fine, you are so bold and you have a big heart. Anyone can get frightened by me, but you won't." The person who came over said, "You want to play, right? I will put in 100 school credits. I bet on Yu-kun winning. Aren't you afraid of getting discovered? Why do you still want to play?" Zhuge Xiaoyong asked in astonishment. "We know the instructor's methods. What's there to be afraid of?" Yu Shuashin said nonchalantly. "Alright, since you dare to play, I will dare to take your credits." Zhuge Xiaoyong smiled and turned to look at Wang Ting. "What do you think? Junior Wang Ting, have you finished considering it?" "I'm just a little curious." "Why did you look for me?" Wang Ting asked. "What's there to be curious about? Freshmen are easier to fool. Among all the freshmen, you have the most credits. If he doesn't fool you, who is he supposed to fool?" Yu Shuashin said. Zhuge Xiaoyong. "Haha." Wang Ting smiled. "I will bet 100 school credits too. I bet on the challenger." Zhuge Xiaoyong thought that he wouldn't participate, so he wasn't expecting to hear this. He raised his head abruptly. "Okay, you are very straightforward. You know that he's fooling you, so why are you still betting?" Yu Shuashin was shocked. "I'm still able to fork out 100 school credits." "I'm just having fun," Wang Teng replied. You are the first freshman I've seen who's so wealthy, Yu Shuoxin smiled and replied. Wang Teng didn't say much. He transferred 100 school credits to Zhuge Xiaoyong and squeezed into the crowd. He walked towards the arena. When Yu Shuoxin and Zhuge Xiaoyong saw him walking up the arena, they looked as though they had seen a ghost. After a long moment of silence, they spurted out one word, F***K. Chapter 201, Battle for Cultivation. When Wang Ting walked up the arena, the crowd went into an uproar. How can it be him? Wang Ting dared to challenge the number 100 Yu Kun? Who gave him the courage? I admit that he's strong, but there's still a huge difference between him and the top 100. Is he getting a little arrogant? Yu Shuoxin was enlightened. No wonder he bet on the challenger. He's the one who challenged Yu Kun. Then, he looked at Zhuge Xiaoyong beside him. He knew that you were fooling him, but he used the opportunity to bet on himself. This fellow is a little sly. It looks like he's very confident. Zhuge Xiaoyong touched his fat chin and said. Yu Shuoxin frowned and asked, he has defeated many second-year students, but don't you think it's a little arrogant of him to challenge the top 100 now? Zhuge Xiaoyong said, I believe that he should have the confidence. Do you think that he's stupid? Yu Shuoxin shook his head quietly. Confidence was subjective. There was never a clear line between confidence and arrogance. The main party would find it difficult to decide if he was confident or arrogant sometimes. Like most people, he believed that Wang Ting was arrogant. Overconfidence was arrogance. Most of the people at the scene felt that Wang Ting was overestimating himself. Zhuge Xiaoyong looked at the situation around him and laughed slyly. It seems like no one thinks that Wang Ting will win. Haha, this is getting fun. Since the match hasn't started, I will pull more people in. Yu Shuoxin shook his head speechlessly when he saw Zhuge Xiaoyong running away. This stupid fatty is really shameless. If he lets more and more people participate, it will attract the instructor's attention. This time, he probably can't earn anything again. In the arena, Yu Kun noticed the commotion and opened his eyes. He looked at Wang Ting opposite him and smiled. You're really popular. Unfortunately, no one seems to believe that you can win. It's all right. I'm just completing my master's homework. I don't need their recognition, Wang Ting said with a calm expression. He didn't care about other people's skepticism. Homework. The corners of Yu Kun's lips twitched. He felt a flame of anger surging up to his heart uncontrollably. Your words are a little infuriating. Sorry. Wang Ting finally realized that his words seemed to have stimulated Yu Kun. There's no need to apologize. Let's find out who's more powerful through our fists. Even if you consider me as your homework, you must have the ability to do it first, Yu Kun said coldly. Wang Ting nodded. Let's start. Like before, the judges this time also came from the martial arts club. However, they were not Chen Su and Yang Lin. Wang Ting had seen these two people when he went to the newbie gathering the last time. The two of them didn't waste any time. When they noticed that Wang Ting and Yu Kun were prepared, they shouted, "Start." The battle immediately started. There was no unnecessary testing or quarreling. They got right to it. Boom. Yu Kun stepped on the ground. A loud sound accompanied each of his steps. If this was an ordinary floor, it would have been destroyed by him. He chose to attack face to face. Yellow force congregated on his arms, and his entire body seemed to have grown taller. He looked like a giant. When he was 3 meters away from Wang Ting, he stomped his feet on the ground and shot up. He pounced on Wang Ting in midair. The astonishingly muscular arms were pressed together and smashed down forcefully like a hammer. The expressions of the people below changed tremendously when they saw this terrifying attack. They were flabbergasted. Senior Yu Kun is really strong. As expected of the top 100. Why isn't Wang Ting moving? Tilda has probably shocked by Senior Yu Kun's aura and forgot to dodge. Sigh, he shouldn't have challenged Yu Kun. He didn't have any chances of winning from the start. When Yu Kun's fists smashed down, Wang Ting finally moved. He wasn't frightened just now. Instead, He was feeling the aura of a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. Wang Ting had seen 3-star soldier-level martial warriors before. Lin Zhon and the other team members of the Tiger Warrior team were 3-star martial warriors. However, they were his comrades, so they wouldn't use their presence to suppress him. Thus, Wang Ting had never personally experienced the full force power of a 3-star soldier-level presence. Now, it was different. There was anger in Yu Kun's heart, so he didn't hold back his force of presence. It surged out in an instant. This aura might be a little powerful, but it seemed to have no effect on him. As compared to Dan Taixuan's presence, it paled in comparison. There was nothing to compare at all. At this moment, Wang Ting raised his head abruptly, and ice force congregated on his fists. He didn't move or dodge. Instead, he took the attack head-on. Boom! The 4 fists collided. Yu Kun's expression changed slightly. He felt a bone-piercing chill entering his body, feeling as though it wanted to freeze his earth force. However, this was not enough to harm him. Not bad. No wonder you dared to challenge me. Yu Kun used the recoil force to land on the ground. He shook his arms to disperse the chill. Then, he charged towards Wang Ting again without stopping. Wang Ting didn't say anything. His speed increased exponentially, and he turned into a series of lingering shadows as he flew towards Yu Kun. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of collisions was heard continuously. Force surged around the arena and turned into a scary tornado. It circled the 2 people fighting on the stage. What a frightening attack. Wang Ting managed to receive it. In the past, some instructors said that Wang Ting's ability can be compared with 3-star soldier-level martial warriors. But it's just comparable. If he is to fight with a real 3-star soldier-level martial warrior, there is still a difference. How can Yu Kun lose to him? Yu Kun hadn't displayed his full strength, right? Everyone was staring at them in bewilderment. There were looks of disbelief on their faces. Some 3rd and 4th year students couldn't help but assume that Yu Kun hadn't unleashed his full power. If not, how could he only be on par with a freshman? Only Yu Kun knew that he had already called forth all his energy. He didn't hold back at all. This fellow is really weird. The strength of his force is weak. It is only at the 2-star soldier level, but has actually able to continue fighting with me. The longer he fought, the more depressed Yu Kun felt. His mentality almost collapsed. He was a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior, but he couldn't even handle a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. If he lost, he wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. When he thought of what would happen after he lost this challenge, Yu Kun's heart trembled. His expression turned hideous, and his attack became even more vicious. But Wang Ting was still handling it with ease. He understood the intention of Dan Taixuan asking him to challenge the top 100 students in school. Battle for cultivation. He would fight with Dan Taixuan at night, but she was too strong. Although there were many benefits, there were also disadvantages. Wang Ting thought of the scene when he fought with Dan Taixuan last night. He was getting trashed the entire time. She had an overwhelming victory. Wang Ting wasn't able to put the things he learned into practice in front of her. He needed a buffer point. The top 100 students were the buffer point Dan Taixuan gave Wang Ting. Their ability was on par with Wang Ting, so when they had duels, Wang Ting had ample time and space to release his potential. He was able to put all the things he learned from Dan Taixuan into practice. Wang Ting used the duels to digest the knowledge and let it become a part of him. Chapter 202. Let me make some plans. A smile appeared at the edge of Wang Ting's lips when he understood Dan Taixuan's intention. Dan Taixuan's attacking method flashed across his mind. Every attack was lethal and aimed at vital points. Her each stroke was extremely simple with no unnecessary moves. Wang Ting followed her example and executed all her moves in his battle with Yu Kun. Yu Kun, who was opposite him, could feel a sudden change in Wang Ting's attacking method. His move got more tricky and lethal. They were extremely dangerous. At first, Wang Ting was not familiar with this kind of attack, so Yu Kun could block them easily. However, as the battle progressed, Wang Ting's attacking speed got faster and faster. The changes in the moves became smoother too. For instance, during the round of attack that just passed, he was aiming at his eyes a second ago, but at the next instant, he turned and attacked his temples. Unpredictable. It was really unpredictable. Cold sweat started oozing on Yukun's forehead. Gradually, he was unable to handle the attacks anymore. At the same time, he noticed something infuriating. Bastard, you are using me as your training partner. Yukun was furious. He was so angry that his face turned red. I got discovered. Wang Teng was stunned. He felt a little guilty in his heart. Yukun glared at him. His force surged furiously and congregated into a lion's head on his fist. A gale blew, and one could faintly hear the angry roar of a lion. Raging lion violent fist. Wang Teng's gaze froze. This was Yukun's famous battle technique. When they saw this scene, the people below started exclaiming in surprise too. It's here, it's here. Yukun's raging lion violent fist is here. The dark level high-class battle technique, raging lion violent fist. This time, Wang Teng is definitely going to lose. The relevant introduction of the raging lion violent fist appeared in Wang Teng's mind. This battle technique used a person's emotion as the guide to unleashing force to its greatest potential. Force would congregate at one spot and turn into a lion's head. When you released the attack in a state of anger, the power would be astonishing. Thus, the angrier you were, the more powerful the attack would be. Yukun had mastered the raging lion violent fist. By right, with his mentality and Wang Teng's doings, he wouldn't be so angry during normal times. However, to execute his raging lion violent fist, he exaggerated his emotions and wanted to unleash his strongest attack. He didn't want to lose this battle. Roar. The angry roar echoed around the stadium. Yukun released his fist, and the huge lion's head shot towards Wang Teng. The powerful gale blew Wang Teng's hair up. Clang. The sound of a weapon being unsheathed was heard. A fiery red sword glow swept through the air. It was exceptionally glaring. The lion's head was executed. Yukun felt as though he was electrocuted. His entire body shuddered, and his chest cracked. A sword wound had appeared there as fresh blood spurted out. He slowly lowered his head. His anger had already disappeared. Only shock was left in its place. He remained silent for a few seconds. Then, Yukun sighed dejectedly and said, I lost. Wang Teng looked at him, not knowing what to say. The top 100 is really hard to get in. I had to persevere hard to make sure that I don't get defeated by anyone. I didn't expect to lose to you today, Yukun said bitterly. However, I don't feel wronged losing to you. He glanced at Wang Ting meaningfully before walking down the arena. The entire place was dead silent as they seemed to be unable to accept this fact. They had lost their ability to speak. When Yukun walked down the arena, everyone couldn't help but clear a path for him. He allowed the blood to drip from his chest as he walked further and further away. His back view seemed lonely. Yukun lost. No one knew how to describe their feelings now. They were able to reluctantly accept the defeat of Zhuotai and the other second years, but now, even the number 100, Yukun, lost to Wang Teng. They found this hard to digest. Wang Teng looked at Yukun's back view and thought to himself, Master, when you asked me to challenge them, did you consider the stimulation it would give them if I defeated all of them? He shook his head and turned to look at the attribute bubbles that had dropped on the ground. Enlightenment *8 Earth Force *20 Raging Lion Violent Fist *6. He picked them up. Instantly, a few bubbles merged into Wang Ting's body and caused his enlightenment to increase. His Earth Force also rose a little. At the same time, a dark-level high-class battle technique appeared in his mind, Raging Lion Violent Fist. This battle technique is quite interesting. Wang Ting thought to himself as he walked down the arena and left the stadium. Everyone finally started discussing among themselves, kicking up a huge commotion. Wang Ting is a monster. He could even beat a senior from the top 100. Is he really a freshman? Is he an older student in disguise? We are both freshmen. Why is our difference so big? Suddenly, I find it a little sorrowful to be in the same batch as him. Wang Teng got stopped by Zhuge Xiaoyong the moment he left the stadium. The fatty was smiling from ear to ear. He pulled Wang Ting to an empty corner and said, "Hey, thanks to you, I earned a lot today. Come, I will transfer your 300 credits to you." "How much did you earn tonight?" Wang Ting asked. Not much. I only earned 1,200 school credits," Zhuge Xiaoyong said proudly. Wang Ting contemplated for some time. Then, he suddenly asked, "I will be challenging the other top 100 students in the future. Are you interested in a collaboration? You're still planning to challenge?" Zhuge Xiaoyong was stunned. He thought that after Wang Ting beat Yu Kun and entered the top 100, he would stop. However, when he thought about it, he realized that Wang Ting seemed to have other motives. He didn't just want to enter the top 100. The fatty asked, "How confident are you?" "I will challenge them one by one in the future. I will tell you beforehand how confident I am, so you can alter the odds when the time comes." Wang Ting's eyes lit up as he said. Zhuge Xiaoyong thought for a moment. He immediately realized the business opportunity there, so he nodded and said, "Sure. It is decided then. However, how are we going to split?" 50-50, Wang Ting said. "All right, 50-50 it shall be." Zhuge Xiaoyong looked as though he was making a loss. He gritted his teeth furiously and nodded. "Tomorrow, I will challenge number 99 Fang Ming," Wang Ting said. "How confident are you?" Zhuge Xiaoyong's eyes lit up, and he asked instantly. 100%. "Are you sure?" Zhuge Xiaoyong didn't believe him. "I didn't execute half of my true ability when I fought with Yu Kun today." Wang Teng glanced at him and replied. "Ha ha ha, okay. Let me do something about it. I promise that we will both earn a lot." Zhuge Xiaoyong was elated. The two of them chatted for some time and gave evil smiles. Then, they left. One after bidding farewell to Zhuge Xiaoyong, Wang Teng came to Dan Taixuan's house. "You're here. How do you feel tonight?" Dan Taixian opened the door and led Wang Teng to the training room as she asked him with a smile. She seemed to know the result already. "I don't feel anything. However, it did help me," Wang Teng replied. "Very good. It looks like you understood my intention." Dan Taixian nodded and replied. The two of them arrived at the training room and stood opposite each other. Dan Taixian raised her hand and hooked her fingers. "Let me see how much you improved tonight." Half an hour later, Wang Teng laid on the floor and panted heavily. The confidence that he had gained after beating Yu Kun just now was heavily impacted. "My stupid disciple, don't be dejected. You still made some improvements. Continue to maintain it." Dan Taixian squatted beside him and said with a smile. Chapter 203, Nickname Monster. The top 100 in school was an honor. At the same time, they represented the most powerful students in the school. The ranking was also posted on the official website. It was being watched by people all the time. Many people eyed them with hostility. They wanted to snatch the ranking from them. Yu Kun was correct. To maintain his position in the top 100, he had to bear great pressure all the time and didn't dare to slack. Many people were eyeing the 100th position and wanted to pull him down. Now that he lost to Wang Teng, while he felt dejected and depressed, he suddenly felt a sense of relief too. He had put down a burden. It might not be a bad thing for him. However, the next day, when people logged into the school's official website and noticed the change in the ranking for the first time, a huge uproar was caused. "How is that possible?" Many people exclaimed uncontrollably when they saw the familiar and unfamiliar name right at the end of the ranking. "Wang Ting. Is he that Wang Ting?" The next moment, the school's hotline got loaded with calls. The staff of the school was irritated. They could only post an explanation on the official website. First, there was nothing wrong with the ranking. Second, the Wang Ting on the ranking was the freshman. When they saw this explanation, many people turned silent. They remained quiet for a long time before lamenting with a complex expression, "He is a monster." This time, Wang Teng's name spread throughout the entire school. Not long before, when he defeated many second-year students, his name had just spread among the freshmen and second-year students. Not many students from the 3rd and 4th years took notice of him. No matter how strong Wang Teng was, he was just a freshman with greater potential. There was still a huge difference between him and them. He needed time to grow. But, now, Wang Ting rose to the top 100 in a single night and was already standing on the same level as the most powerful students in the school. Who dared to look down on him anymore? Early in the morning, when Wang Teng was walking in school, he noticed that the students who walked past him were all looking at him with strange expressions. Achievement gained, 200% second glance rate. Wang Ting touched his face and asked Hu Pingliang and his friends beside him, "Is there something on my face?" "Chimph, don't you know what happened?" Hu Pingliang and his friends looked at him in disdain. "Brother Teng, you've caused a sensation," Song Shuhang exclaimed in shock. "We discussed for some time and highly suspect that you are a bug." Lu Shu looked at Wang Ting with a sharp gaze. Wang Ting was speechless. "Your guess is really accurate. Unfortunately, I will never admit it." Hu Pingliang and his friends had already heard the news of Wang Ting entering the top 100. They were astounded and had mixed emotions, but they also felt a sense of urgency. They promised themselves secretly that they would work hard to catch up with him. They mustn't be thrown too far behind. The few of them joked and laughed as they went to their classroom. Wang Ting was surrounded immediately. Everyone came over to greet him whether or not they had interactions before. Brother Ting, do you still need lackeys? Brother Ting, can I be your girlfriend? I have a cute and sweet voice. Move aside. Wang Ting, I know how to wash clothes and cook. I can warm your bed too. You can consider me." Mind you, Wang Ting was a little moved. He didn't lack any lackeys. But he lacked a girlfriend. He lacked it very much. But, which one should he choose? The one with a cute and sweet voice seemed good, but this broad-chest beauty with a warming bed ability seemed good too. Wang Ting was in a dilemma. However, his heart was filled with happiness. At this moment, he really wanted to sing a song. I feel so high, I feel like my life has reached its peak I feel so high, I feel like my life has reached its peak ring. Just as he was giving free rein to his imagination and thinking of his beautiful future, the bell rang. The ladies left reluctantly. Wang Teng was utterly stunned. "Hey, don't go away. I haven't replied to you yet. Can you be a person with principles? You must end what you started." The instructor was here. He glanced at Wang Teng, who was still standing on the spot, and said, "Wang Teng, sit down." "All right, teacher." Wang Teng sat down obediently and entered the sage mode. He listened to the lesson in all seriousness. Most of the time, things just wouldn't work out the way you thought they would. There was no need to be anxious. In the afternoon, Wang Teng went to the first section dormitory and challenged the number 99 student, Fang Ming. Fang Ming was shocked. "You just fought with Yu Kun, but you're challenging me now. How are you so indifferent?" "I don't have a choice. My master gave me some homework. My master wants me to fight with one of you every day," Wang Teng said shyly. At the same time, he complained about himself in his heart. "Why are you pretending to be young? Disgusting." "I see. I understand." Fang Ming nodded. "Looks like your master has high expectations for you. I also want to witness your monstrous ability." "Monstrous?" The corners of Wang Ting's lips twitched. He said, "All right. See you at 7 p.m. in the martial arts arena." "All right, see you." In the afternoon, the news that Wang Ting was challenging Fang Ming spread like wildfire. Before the evening came, almost all the people who should know about the battle knew about it. It felt as if a storm was brewing. There was no doubt that there was someone spreading the news. As expected, after his lesson, Wang Teng received Fatty Juge's call. He heard a peal of loud laughter from the other end. "Ha ha ha, what do you think? Is the scene big enough for you? If you think that it isn't enough, I can add more fuel to the fire." Wang Teng was speechless. He asked, "How many people are there now?" He, more than 80. They are all old customers. It's safe." Fatty Zhuge lowered his voice and said proudly. "Anyway, what will happen if you get caught by the teachers?" Wang Teng asked curiously. What else can happen? The school credits will get confiscated, and I will get punished, Fatty Zhuge pouted and replied. Then be careful. Know when to stop. Don't get overboard, Wang Teng couldn't help but remind him. I know. I'm very experienced in this matter. You just need to focus on the battle tonight. Once you win, we will be rich, Fatty Zhuge said. Wang Teng hung up the call and shook his head uncontrollably. This Fatty had a lot of connections. He wasn't a simple person. But this was good too. With him around, Wang Teng didn't need to act personally. He could pass the entire operation to the Fatty. All he had to do was to wait and collect the money. In a blink of an eye, it was almost 7 p.m. Wang Teng, Hu Pingliang, and his friends came to the stadium. When they saw the commotion inside, they were shocked. So many people. The entire stadium, if you looked from afar, was filled with people. Besides humans, there was nothing else. Once Wang Ting walked onto the arena, at the judge's command, the two of them started fighting. Half an hour later, Wang Teng won. Everyone was flabbergasted. Thank you. You are very strong. No wonder Yu Kun lost to you. Fang Ming smiled naturally and turned around to leave. For the next few days, Wang Teng continued challenging the top 100 students. He challenged one a day and won all of them. His ranking kept increasing. Actually, he didn't care about the ranking. What made him really happy was that his ability was increasing at a visible speed. Of course, the school credits were flowing in continuously too. He and Fatty Zhuge earned a lot because of the fights. At the same time, Wang Teng finally confirmed his status as a monster. As a freshman, he had defeated many top 100 students and remained undefeated. If he wasn't a monster, what was he? Everyone was already numb. They had started accepting Wang Teng's incredible ability gradually. Many people even wondered how far Wang Teng could go. Top 50? Or top 30? No one knew for certain. After all, the further he went, the larger the difference in ability. Every 10 ranks was an obstacle. It wasn't an easy task to overcome. But this didn't stop everyone from discussing happily. Wang Teng didn't care about this, though. His life was extremely fulfilling every day. He went for lessons, picked up attributes, challenged his seniors, practiced, he did everything. His battle power grew by the day. Very soon, it was the end of September. The school welcomed the National Day holiday. During the National Day holiday, the school allowed its students to go home. Hence, once the afternoon lessons ended, the students started leaving the university. It was a 7-day holiday. Many students who lived in other provinces were planning to go back too. In an instant, the entire school was half empty. Wang Teng was also leaving. Before this, Lin Zhon had informed him to prepare to head to the Xingwu continent. They planned to go earlier, but for Wang Teng's sake, they had pushed it back until now. Wang Teng was leaving his school, so the little crow had to follow him. Since he was heading to the Xingwu continent this time, he could get some star beast meat and store it for later. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about not having food to feed the little crow in the future. During these few days, the little crow ate a lot. It also grew very quickly, just like its master. The feathers on its body weren't as soft as they were when it just hatched from the egg. They felt like metal now. Wang Teng did some tests before. The feathers were extremely hard and sharp. However, this little fellow still didn't know how to fly. He brought the little crow back to his house. Wang Shangguo and Li Xiaomei were astonished when they saw Wang Shangguo bringing an ugly crow home. "Son, why are you raising a crow?" Li Xiaomei asked. "That's right. Of all the things you can raise, why did you choose a crow?" Wang Shangguo couldn't understand either. "This is a star beast," Wang Teng said. Star beast. The two of them got shocked instantly. They knew that the star beasts were hard to tame. They must be raised from birth in order to let them recognize their master. However, star beast cubs were extremely rare. It was lucky enough to find one, much less care about the species. No wonder. Wang Shengguo understood now. He sized up the little crow curiously. "This is a star beast. I can't see any difference." You're a normal person. What can you see? Li Xiaomei retorted. Wang Teng laughed. He said, Dad, don't judge it by its ordinary appearance. Its beak and claws are powerful weapons. Even if a martial warrior gets pecked or scratched by it, he will get hurt. Its feathers are hard and durable too. Normal weapons won't be able to harm it. TSK, so incredible. Wang Shengguo was shocked. This is nothing. It's still young. After it grows up, it might possess stronger abilities. That is when it will turn incredible, Wang Teng replied. In that case, you must raise it properly. Wang Shengguo and Li Xiaomei immediately threw away their discrimination towards the little crow and said in a serious tone. Don't worry. I know what to do, Wang Teng smiled and said. Dudu watched them chat from the side. She didn't interrupt them. She looked at the little crow curiously with her big and round eyes. After they finished speaking, she asked, Brother Teng, can I touch the big crow? Of course. Wang Ting smiled gently and patted the little crow's head. He passed it over. The little crow seemed to understand Wang Ting's intention. It looked at him unhappily and then landed in front of Dudu. It cawed at her a couple of times. Chapter 204. The direction of development of the Wang family. Wang Ting came home, so Li Xiaomei cooked a table of dishes again. Actually, it hadn't been long since he came home the last time. But, before Wang Teng went to university, he never left home for such a long time. Hence, to Li Xiaomei, even if it was just a week, she found it very long. The family of 4 finished their dinner and sat in the living room to chat casually. Dudu didn't even watch her favorite cartoon. She was playing happily with the little crow. A few days ago, Dudu's relatives came. Li Xiaomei suddenly brought up this topic. Oh. Wang Teng asked curiously, what did they say? They want to take Dudu back. Li Xiaomei shook her head speechlessly as she recalled something unhappy. Wang Teng knew that this would happen. What are your thoughts? Dudu doesn't want to go back with them, and we don't want this child to land in the hands of those unscrupulous people either, Li Xiaomei replied. Wang Fugue and his relatives are horrible people, Wang Shengguo interrupted and said. It looks like I have an additional younger sister now. Wang Teng smiled. Then, he asked, do you need me to act? You are looking down on your father. Those people are just good-for-nothings. If I can't even handle them, my years of experience would have gone to waste, Wang Shengguo said. Look at how proud you are. Li Xiaomei rolled her eyes at him. She continued, in the past, I heard Dudu's mother saying that Wang Fugue's relatives are all ignorant and incompetent. However, they are close with the mafia. You must be careful of them playing tricks behind your back. You reminded me in time. I need to be careful of them, Wang Shengguo frowned and said. You are staying in Deer Garden now, so they won't dare to create trouble here. If they want to harm you, they will do it outside. At that time, I will take care of it, Wang Teng said. Wang Shengguo didn't say anything. He knew that if Wang Ting went to settle these things, the result would be better. The status of martial warriors wasn't a joke. Thinking of this, Wang Shengguo felt relieved and unwilling. The feeling of getting surpassed by his son wasn't good. Dudu, come. Wang Teng called Dudu, who was playing happily with the little crow in the living room. What's the matter, brother Wang Teng? Dudu ran over. There was perspiration on her forehead. Wang Teng helped her wipe her sweat. Then, he smiled and said, I will be your brother from now on, okay? Aren't you my brother already? Dudu tilted her head and asked. It's different. In the future, you can call me brother directly. You don't have to call my name, Wang Teng replied. If I don't need to call your name, you will be my true brother, right? Dudu thought for a moment and asked. Wang Ting looked at her big black eyes and said, that's right. Dudu is so smart. Brother Wang Ting will be your real brother. I will help you beat the bad people away. What do you think? Dudu looked at Wang Ting seriously. She then gave a wide smile, and a faint dimple appeared on her round face. She pushed her head into Wang Ting's chest and hugged him tightly. Okay, brother. Li Xiaomei and Wang Shengguo smiled uncontrollably. This child has an affinity with little Teng, Li Xiumei said. Wang Shengguo exclaimed, "You're right. I didn't know that our son had this side." From this moment onwards, Dudu officially became a member of the Wang family. Dudu seemed to feel a slight change too. She was smiling a lot more now. Wang Teng put down Dudu and let her play on her own. He started chatting with Wang Shengguo while Li Xiumei peeled apples beside them. "Son, do you think our company has a chance to enter the martial warriors industry?" Wang Shengguo hesitated for a moment before asking. Wang Shengguo was slightly surprised. He glanced at Wang Shengguo. Too, his father's ambition wasn't small. But he was right. He was at his prime age. You couldn't let him stay at home and be unemployed, right? Also, he had always been ambitious. In the past, before Wang Teng became a martial warrior, he had already thought of expanding his own company. But he lacked an appropriate chance, so it was hard for him to break through. Now that Wang Ting had become a martial warrior, he started to get restless again. Wang Ting pondered for a moment before smiling. "Dad, there will be chances naturally. Really?" Wang Shengguo's eyes lit up. He immediately got excited. "Why are you so anxious? Can you let our son finish his sentence?" Li Xiumei rolled her eyes at him and passed a peeled apple over. Wang Shengguo chuckled. He thought that the apple was for him and wanted to take it. However, Li Xiumei slapped his hand away mercilessly. "Move, this is for our son. There's none for you." Wang Ting burst out laughing. He took the apple and ate it under Wang Shengguo's bitter gaze. In this martial warrior's era, due to the nourishment of the force, changes had also started to occur to the different fruits on earth. Some became plumper and sweeter, while others couldn't be eaten anymore. Fortunately, apples were still edible, and they were more delicious than before. If this variety existed in his past life, the other types of apples wouldn't have any market at all. "Son, what chance were you referring to just now?" Wang Shengguo couldn't control his curiosity. Dan medicine, weapons, and even rune items, Wang Teng didn't hide anything. The country wouldn't allow ordinary merchants to sell these items. However, Wang Teng recognized Dan Taixian as his master. This background was definitely enough. It wouldn't be a problem if he asked her to be the mediator and then got some official credentials. As for the supply of goods, he had recently started learning alchemy and smithery and had been making incredible progress. He believed that not long after, he would be able to start making them on his own. He couldn't make high-class dan and weapons but could start making lower-grade items first before expanding slowly. Then, they would grow their business. By then, Wang Teng would have enough ability to support the progress and development of the Wang family. He wouldn't need other people's help anymore. Also, as the company expanded, the Wang family could hire more alchemists and blacksmiths. Then, he would be able to wash his hands clean. Wang Ting and Wang Shengguo chatted for a long time. The things he revealed made Wang Shengguo extremely excited. Even with his composure, he felt a little restless. He wanted to get up immediately and start moving. He didn't expect Wang Ting to have so many connections. He had a hand in alchemy, weapons, and rune items. The Wang family was going to soar. "There's no need to hurry. After I get the license, you can start working on it," Wang Ting said to calm his father down. He found it funny. Okay, I'm not anxious, Wang Shengguo said happily. "Also, I feel that we should do it one at a time. Dan and weapons can make a lot of money. If we do both at the same time, it's very easy for others to get jealous. In the entire country, the piece of cake is only this big. However, many people are eyeing the cake. They are the real giants. If we attract their attention, I'm afraid that we will be doomed eternally. All in all, if you want to start a company in this martial warriors era, you need to have the ability. If my ability is not enough, I will just be paving the way for others," Wang Ting said. Wang Shengguo's back was covered with cold sweat when he heard what Wang Ting said. He calmed down and said with a bitter smile, "You're right. I'm older than you, but I'm not as thoughtful as you. Of course, I'm referring to when we become big. At the start, those giants won't take notice of a small company like us. Wang Teng smiled and consoled him. Seriously. Wang Shangguo immediately felt that he was tricked. This fellow knows how to play the game really well. 1. Chapter 205. There's a little crow called Little White. Wang Shangguo never expected that he would get tricked by his son one day. For a second, his expression was fascinating. Little brat, how afraid are you that I will get blinded by interest? Although he knew that Wang Teng had good intentions, the feeling was still not good. Forget it, for the development of the company. I will bear with it. Wang Shangguo shook his head helplessly. He continued discussing with Wang Ting for a long time. At 8 p.m., Li Xiumei brought Dudu to bathe. Dudu passed the little crow to Wang Ting and asked, "Brother, does this big crow have a name?" "Big crow?" Wang Ting laughed. He said, "It is just a little crow. It was just born not long ago. I still haven't given it a name. It was just born. Why is it so big then?" Dudu waved her hands to show the little crow's size as she asked curiously. "Because its parents are as big as an airplane. Hence, it's already very big when it's born," Wang Teng explained. When he noticed that Dudu still wanted to ask, he said hurriedly, "Dudu, do you want to give it a name?" Okay. Dudu was elated. She clapped her little hands and thought for a moment before saying, "Let's call it Little White. What do you think?" Little White. Wang Ting was dumbfounded. "You name this black crow Little White?" "That's right. It's so black. I call it Little White because I hope that it can become whiter," Dudu said earnestly. This reason was very good. Wang Ting couldn't help but give Dudu a thumbs up. "Let's call it Little White then." The little crow cawed. It seemed to be showing his displeasure. However, Dudu and Wang Ting had never thought of asking for its opinion. Rejection invalid. It's decided then. Dudu followed Li Xiumei up the stairs to bathe happily. Little White, good name. Wang Ting touched his chin and contemplated for some time. He honestly felt that it was not bad. The meaning was good. Caw. The little crow ran over and pecked Wang Ting's hand to show its unhappiness. "Go away." Wang Ting hurriedly dodged. If he really got pecked when he wasn't aware, it would be painful. The next day. At 8 a.m., Wang Ting finished breakfast with his family and left his house. He drove towards the Jisin Marshal House. Today, he would be meeting Lin Zhon and his team members to head to the Xingwu continent. He arrived at the Jisin Marshal House and parked his car. Wang Teng was dressed in full combat attire. He looked handsome as he walked to the martial warriors' lobby. He entered the lobby and scanned his surroundings. He saw Lin Zhon and his teammates instantly. But Wang Teng saw two people talking with Lin Zhon and his teammates. "Leader Lin, I know that a member of your team just left. My young master sincerely wants to join your team. Why are you rejecting him?" the middle-aged man of the two men said. "I'm sorry. We already have another team member," Lin Zhon said. The middle-aged man said, I know. It's the top scholar of the martial arts exam, right? However, I have to say something that might not be pleasant to hear. He's just a 1-star soldier-level martial warrior. He will only drag your team down. On the other hand, my young master is already a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. He's on par with your team. I feel that my young master is undoubtedly more suitable. When he heard this, the young man beside him gave an arrogant expression uncontrollably. He said, "Leader Lin, I know that you think highly of Wang Ting's potential. But, from what I see, even if he's the top scholar of the martial arts exam, it's nothing special. There's a top scholar every year, but how many of them became outstanding? You don't have to speak anymore. Our team will not abandon any of our teammates." Lin Zhon shook his head and replied. Duan Jinji felt extremely embarrassed when he got rejected by Lin Zhon again and again. His life had always been smooth, so he was exceptionally infuriated. He only pestered them endlessly to let him join the Tiger Warrior team because this team stood out among all the other low-rank martial warrior teams. Also, the leader, Lin Zhon, just achieved his breakthrough and became a 4-star soldier-level martial warrior. He felt that he would be able to accomplish great things in the future. At first, he thought that with his background and ability, joining the Tiger Warrior team was a piece of cake. But he didn't expect them to hold on to Wang Ting so tightly and reject him in front of so many people. Lin Zhon had put him on the spot. The middle-aged man stared at Leader Lin and said, "Leader Lin, my master is a higher authority in the Jisin martial house. I don't think that it's a wise choice to reject my young master for Wang Teng, who has no background at all. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? Chimph, are you threatening me?" Lin Zhon smiled. "Let me tell you honestly, Principal Fu personally placed Wang Ting in our team. If you have any opinions, you can talk to him directly." The middle-aged man's expression changed. "In that case, forget it. Let's go." Duan Jinji's expression was ugly. He turned around and left. Right at this moment, Wang Teng walked over and greeted Lin Zhon. "Leader Lin, you're here." Lin Zhon nodded. Duan Jinji snorted and glared at Wang Teng coldly. He didn't stay and continued walking. "He is?" Wang Teng asked curiously. He had heard some parts of their conversation, but he didn't hear everything. "Chimph, has a second-generation martial artist. He wants us to kick you out of the team so that he can come in," Liu Yang sniggered. "He looks like he has a powerful background," Wang Teng frowned and said. "He does have some background, but this is Dong Hai. Principal Fu has the final say here. Their family isn't able to interfere in this matter," Lin Zhon said nonchalantly. "I'm just afraid that he won't give up," Yang Jinming suddenly said. "We will just be more careful in the future," Liu Yang said. "This fellow doesn't look like a good person. Will you feel at ease letting him into the team?" "Of course not. If not, I would have persuaded the leader to let him in," Yang Jinming shrugged and replied. "Forget it. Let's not talk about him anymore. Since everyone is here, let's go." Lin Zhon walked out of the lobby first. They walked to the car park to take their cars. Then, they headed directly to the forbidden military ground where the dimensional rift was. When they got into the car, Wang Ting opened his bag and let the little crow breathe some fresh air. This time, he had decided to bring the little crow along when he went to the Xingwu continent to let it experience the primary forest. That was a heaven for star beasts. A star beast needed to be wild. Wang Teng was afraid that if he raised it in the city, it would become useless. Lin Zhon and the other team members were amazed when they saw the little crow. "This is a star beast." "That's right," Wang Teng nodded and replied. He didn't hide the truth from them. "Good riddance. Where did you get this star beast cub?" "It's a bird too," Lin Zhon said enviously. "I was lucky," Wang Teng gave an offhanded answer. He didn't explain further. If he wanted to explain the origins of this little crow, many things would be implicated. Lin Zhon and the others stopped probing when they noticed his reply. But all of them expressed their jealousy. "If you raise this thing properly, it will be a huge support." Chapter 206. Spiritual Pet Contract. Wang Teng and his teammates drove to the forbidden military ground where the dimensional rift was. Along the way, Lin Zhon, Liu Yang, and the Yang siblings showed a huge interest in the little crow. They had seen star beast cubs before, but this was the first time one had appeared in front of them at such a close distance. Lin Zhon was driving, so he had no free hands. Liu Yang and the three of them wanted to tease the little crow, but it ignored them altogether. Not everyone received Duda's treatment. This little fellow just hatched not long ago, so it might be a little afraid of strangers. Wang Ting touched the little crow's head and said. The little crow, who was arrogant in front of Liu Yang and the others, was exceptionally obedient in front of Wang Teng. Liu and the others were green with envy. "You're really lucky. Do you know how hard it is for a star beast to recognize its master?" Liu Yang sighed continuously. "That's right. An adult star beast rarely recognizes a master. Cubs are hard to find, so it's difficult to find a star beast for a pet," Yang Jinming said sadly. Wang Teng was puzzled. He asked, "You have been going to the Xingwu continent for many years. Isn't it easy for you to get a star beast cub?" "You don't know." Lin Zhon shook his head and interrupted their conversation. We are able to catch normal star beast cubs if we want, but they have limited potential, like the earth armor pigs. They will remain at 1 star or 2 star no matter how we groom them. They are not suitable pets either. Tell me, what's the use of us raising them? Wang Teng was enlightened. Just like what Lin Zhon said, star beasts like the earth armor pig were commonly seen, so it wasn't difficult to catch them. However, besides having a thick hide and being able to block damage for its master, its abilities were almost negligible. Who would raise an earth armor pig as a pet? The weakest among this team was at the 3-star soldier level. If they raised a weak star beast, it would be a waste of time and resources. The result would be negligible, and there was no purpose at all. Also, every martial warrior had specializations. For instance, Liu Yang specialized in rune guns. As a long-distance fighter, the star beast she needed should specialize in speed or have a certain offensive ability so that it could cooperate with her or protect her during a battle. All in all, beast pets were supports. Thus, the pairing was crucial. It was inappropriate to raise just any star beast as a pet. There's a spiritual pet contract in the Xingwu continent. If you feel that this little crow is suitable, you can get a contract and bind yourselves together, Liu Yang suddenly reminded him. That's right. This little crow is reliant on you, so the binding should be smooth. Don't miss the best timing, Lin Zhon said. Spiritual pet contract. Wang Teng was stunned. There's such a thing in the Xingwu continent. Haha, there are many interesting things in the Xingwu continent. However, we haven't studied all of them, Lin Zhon smiled and replied. Wang Teng nodded. He thought of a question and asked, are spiritual pet contacts expensive? It's about 100 million, Lin Zhon thought for a moment before saying casually. Wang Teng, brother, you don't feel it because you're not involved. 100 million. Can you don't say it so casually? Others might think that you're talking about 100 renminbi. Wang Teng didn't know what to say anymore. Half an hour later, they reached the military ground. They went through a series of inspections that lasted for 10 minutes. Then, they went through the dimensional rift and entered the Xingwu continent once again. Space *0. 2 space *0. 1 space *0. 1 Wang Ting used his spiritual power to pull the attributes over and picked up 9 bubbles. Some of these attribute bubbles had dropped when Lin Zhon and his teammates came out of the dimensional rift. Others were left by the people in front. He picked up a total of 6 space attributes. He looked at his attributes panel. Space, 9, 10,000. Wang Ting smiled bitterly. There was still a long journey ahead. He wondered how long he would take to fill up his space attributes. If he could, Wang Ting really wanted to squat here for a few days, but reality didn't allow him to. Fortunately, this number of space attributes was enough for Wang Teng to use his space talent briefly. Although he could only move through space for a short distance, with the help of his spiritual power, this would be the lethal attack among the lethal attacks. Ha ha ha, let's go. Lin Zhon's voice pulled Wang Teng back to reality. They drove their car on the streets filled with an exotic aura. Since it was morning, the streets were crowded, and it was very lively. Yong City was created by humans from Earth. As an important trading city, there were races from the Xingwu continent here too. Every time I see the Earth people and the people from the Xingwu continent interacting without any barriers in a single place, I find it hard to believe that these two factions are battling behind the scenes, Yang Jinyu lamented. My stupid sister, isn't this normal? Even on our Earth, when there isn't a conflict of interest, everything will seem peaceful on the surface. However, once you need to fight for your own benefits, no one will give in to another person. When they need to deal the lethal blow, they won't hesitate, Yang Jinming said. Peace is comparative, Lin Zhon said. As they spoke, they reached the Yong City branch of the Jisin Martial House. This time, you have 7 days of break, so I decided to take a short-term mission. We can kill star beasts and complete the mission at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, Lin Zhon said as he brought everyone into the main building of the Martial House. Their acquaintances greeted them with a smile. This time, no one looked down on Wang Ting anymore. In the past, Wang Ting had headed to the dark mist forest alone and came back unscathed. Not only that, but he had also killed a huge number of star beasts. Hence, everyone knew that this newbie wasn't a simple person. Martial warriors respected the powerful people. If you were strong enough, you would naturally get recognized. Lin Zhon and his team members didn't act arrogantly. They also greeted everyone. Even if some male martial warriors made some harmless jokes on Liu Yang and Yang Jinyu, the two ladies didn't take it to heart. They smiled and let it go. Lin Zhon walked in front of a machine and opened the internal mission platform of the Jisin Martial House. He started scrolling the site with his team members. After searching for a long time, Lin Zhon finally clicked on the description of a mission. Help the dwarfs in Red Leaves Hill to clear the Gale Mantis horde that has been increasing in size. The mission reward will be based on the number of Gale Mantis killed. The more you kill, the higher the reward. Note, it's suspected that there is a 3-star elite-class Gale Mantis King. What do you think of this mission? Lin Zhon asked for everyone's opinion. Dwarfs. The wine they make and the weapons they forge are good stuff. If we can befriend them, it won't be a bad thing. I have no objection, Yang Jinming smiled and replied. The Gale Mantis horde is hard to deal with, though, Yang Jinyu said. It's all right. I made a 4-star rune machine gun. Let me show you what a gunfire rain is. I'll take care of everything, Liu Yang said handsomely. Wang Ting, what do you think? Lin Zhon turned to Wang Ting and asked. I have no objection. I'm also curious about the living environment of the dwarfs. This was what he said, but internally, he was thinking to himself, I can pick up some wind element attributes along the way. Among all the forces he possessed, only his wind force was still stuck at 1 star. He needed to raise it as quickly as he could. Wind element star beasts were rare. It looked like he was lucky today. This mission was killing a bunch of wind element Gale Mantis. Alright, well choose this then, Lin Zhon said. They entered their martial warrior credentials into the machine and accepted the mission as a team. Then, they went to the car park and drove a heavy armor vehicle out. We'll go to the Rune Treasure Pavilion first to get Wang Ting a spiritual pet contract, Lin Zhon said. No one had any objection. Lin Zhon drove the car and took many turns in the city. Finally, they arrived at the most prosperous business district of Yong City and stopped outside a building with a strange design. This building possessed the style of Earth buildings as well as the form of the Xingwu continent's architecture. At first glance, it looked weird, but once you continued looking at it, you would feel that it had a different kind of beauty. Sometimes, you must admire the unusual ideas of the architects. So this is the Rune Treasure Pavilion. Wang Ting looked at the classical, ancient, and unsophisticated building in front of him with curiosity. That's right. You might not know, but this Rune Treasure Pavilion was founded by Jack Ma from our Earth and the Zicheng Chamber of Commerce. This is their joint venture as well as the first special company formed by both the Earth and the Xingwu continent. It created a good role model for the cooperation between the two parties. Jack Ma is an incredible figure, Lin Zhon exclaimed. Wang Ting's expression was strange. Jack Ma is doing business in the Xingwu continent too? They all walked into the Rune Treasure Pavilion while chatting. The interior was extravagant. The gold was so glaring that Wang Ting almost got blinded. A beautiful lady wearing a cheongsam welcomed them. Hello, I'm your guide, Xiao Ya. If you need anything, you can tell me. The beautiful lady gave a pretty smile as she spoke to them. I need a spiritual pet contract, Wang Ting opened his mouth and said. The beauty immediately knew that the buyer was this young man in front of her. Looking at his appearance, he seemed to be a martial warrior. She didn't dare to neglect him, so she said politely, all right. Please follow me to the 2nd floor. She led the way in front and brought Wang Ting and his teammates past the lobby. They walked up to the 2nd floor through a flight of wooden stairs. There were many sealed cabinets on the 2nd floor, and all kinds of precious items were stored inside. There were force skill scriptures, force battle techniques, rune accessories, rune weapons, and many others. There was a huge array of items. The beauty brought them to the reception area and poured some tea for them. Then, she said, please wait for a moment. I have already informed our general manager. He will be here immediately. Only he has the right to take out the item you want from the cabinet. A few moments later, a middle-aged man walked over with another beautiful lady in a cheongsam behind him carrying a tray. My surname is Lee, and I'm the general manager of the Rune Treasure Pavilion. I'm delighted to meet you. He waved his hand and asked the beauty behind him to place the tray on the table. Then, he smiled and said, "This is the spiritual pet contract you want. You can check the item." There was a scroll on the tray. Lin Zhon took a few looks at it before nodding at Wang Teng. "How much is this spiritual pet contract?" Wang Teng asked. 130 million. General Manager Li smiled and replied. "It's a little expensive," Wang Teng said. "It's not expensive. This spiritual pet contract is made by the renowned rune master of the Xingwu continent, Master Ling Shu. Its quality is much higher than other normal rune masters," General Manager Li explained patiently. Master Ling Shu. Lin Zhon and the others were shocked. He hurriedly picked up the scroll and looked at it carefully, especially when he saw the unique sign behind the scroll at the bottom right-hand corner. He inspected it carefully with Liu Yang and the other 3 people before saying, "Indeed, this is Master Ling's work. In that case, this price is reasonable. Of course. Our Rune Treasure Pavilion is a credible business. All our products have a fixed price. We won't change the price for no reason," General Manager Li said proudly. "All right, 130 million. Wang Ting was too lazy to bargain, so he nodded and agreed right away. When he killed star beasts alone in the past, he had earned 580 million. He spent 270 million to buy the house in Deer Garden, so he was left with 310 million. It was enough. Thus, he didn't back down and spent 130 million just like that. You could do whatever you wanted when you had money." General Manager Li's eyes lit up when he heard that Wang Ting wanted to purchase the contract. He took out a scanner behind him and asked in a gentle voice, "Are you paying by force stones or card?" "You can use force stones to pay." Wang Ting was slightly stunned. Force stones is the universal currency for the martial warriors in the Xingwu continent. Now, most of the martial warriors here use force stones to pay, Lin Zhon explained. "I'll use my card. I don't have enough force stones." Wang Teng took out his bank card and passed it to the other party. A few minutes later, Wang Teng and his teammates walked out of the Rune Treasure Pavilion. General Manager Li personally sent them to the door and smiled radiantly. "Please come again." Settled. Let's head to the Red Leaves Hill. Lin Zhon drove the heavy armor vehicle and sped out of the giant gates of the Yong city. Wang Ting sat at the back and started examining the spiritual pet contact. "How do you use this? Do you see the 2 runes on the scroll? There's a big one and a small one. You just need to drip your blood and the little crow's blood on the pictures," Lin Zhon said. Wang Ting nodded. He took a drop of his blood and a drop of little crow's blood. Then, he dropped them on the 2 runes. The runes blinked with a red light before floating in the air. The big rune landed on Wang Ting's forehead while the small one merged into the little crow's head. In an instant, Wang Ting felt a strange connection form between him and the little crow. He could even faintly detect the little crow's thoughts and emotions. "This is so interesting." He closed his eyes to inspect this feeling. Suddenly, he exclaimed, "This is?" When he closed his eyes, his vision changed. He seemed to be seeing the outside world through the eyes of the little crow. Does the spiritual pet contract have this ability? Wang Ting took a deep breath. He was confused. He thought for a moment and asked casually, "Leader, do you know what effects there are after you activate this spiritual pet contract?" "If you're talking about effects, you will probably be able to sense your spiritual pet's thoughts and emotions," Lin Zhon replied. "Besides this, are there any other effects?" Wang Ting asked. "Other effects? I haven't heard of other effects. Did you discover something?" Lin Zhon smiled and replied. "Nope. I was just asking so that I don't have to fiddle around aimlessly," Wang Ting said. "The spiritual pet contract allows you to build a connection with your spiritual pet. It's already impressive enough if you're able to feel the thoughts and emotions of your spiritual pet. There are no other effects," Lin Zhon said. Wang Teng nodded in deep thought. He didn't ask any more questions. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.